Chapter 574. Hearing this, many people furrowed their eyebrows. Not long after, some netizens who felt that it was ridiculous laughed mockingly. They had just typed a line of words, and had yet to send it out. Suddenly, a handsome and noble eyebrows flashed across the screen. A few seconds later, someone in the comments section was about to go crazy. "Ah, who is this young man? He's too handsome. Woo-woo, Sister Chiu-Chiu, give me a detailed information. I suddenly want to chase after celebrities. Another godlike face? Does the production team have so much funding? Did they spend money to hire him? Woo-woo, he's really good looking. I thought he was a tyrant in reality." After a long time, no one in the livestream could tell who the man who had flashed past the screen for only a second was. Some of the netizens, who were so anxious and curious, were about to scratch their ears and cheeks. Where did this man come from? In fact, in that second, even Huashidu, who was sitting in the second row, did not even glance over. He only raised his eyebrows slightly. His lazy and carefree attitude was enough to leave a deep impression on others. It inexplicably stirred up one's hormones. However, after that second, no one saw Huashidu for more than half an hour. At this moment, after Chinyu got off the stage, he quickly noticed Huashidu and raised his eyebrows in surprise. Then, he got his exclusive cameraman to stop filming and walked in front of Huashidu. "Master Du, why are you here?" Chinyu sat beside Huashidu and asked curiously. "To watch your performance," Huashidu said slowly. Hearing this, Chinyu was silent for a long time before he regained his senses. "To watch our performance?" Chinyu felt that it was very suspicious. Then, he could not help but look at Bei Yunj, who was in the first row. Looking at the distance between the two of them, he seemed to understand something. "Don't tell me you two had a fight?" Chinyu's tone was a little gloating. This made Huashidu glance at him carelessly with his pale-colored eyes. After hearing Huashidu admit it, Chinyu's vanity was inexplicably satisfied. "Is that so? Actually, you might not know this, but too many things have happened between Go-er and me during this period of time. I keep feeling that Go-er and I have become much closer." Chinyu sighed. Huashidu did not intend to expose him either. He only looked at Bei Yunj's back without hiding it. About 5 minutes later, Chinyu suddenly placed his hand on Huashidu's shoulder. This action made Huashidu's eyes darken unconsciously, and he glanced at Chinyu leisurely. However, at the thought of Chinyu's identity, she had to get along with him in the future, so she didn't say much to him. Brothers maybe not real brothers. That's how it is. How about this? I'll give you some personal space later, so you can perform well. Chinyu's tone was filled with pride. Huashidu's eyes landed on Chinyu. He chuckled and replied lazily, "Sure. Good luck." Chinyu patted Huashidu's shoulder encouragingly. He had no idea how Huashidu had been alone with his Go-er an hour ago. Master Pei, are you ready?" Hua-sun suddenly asked eagerly. "Ready for what?" Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow and glanced at him. "We have a live event. Have you forgotten?" Chapter 575. Hearing this, Bei Yunj looked away and continued to fight with Chu Zhixing and the rest. "I didn't sign up." Hua-sun was speechless. "Look at the program list." Hearing this, Bei Yunj finally noticed that everyone else had a program list in their hands. After regaining her senses, Bei Yunj realized that she might be in the lounge. Bei Yunj was speechless. At this moment, seeing that Bei Yunj was silent, the corners of Hua-sun's mouth twitched, and he handed the program list to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at it and saw the last column. Question and answer segment. Hosts, Bei Yunj, Hua-sun. Bei Yunj was speechless. Seeing Bei Yunj and Hua-sun go on stage, Yun Nua happened to walk back and sat beside Chinyu Jiao. "Where did you go just now?" Chinyu Jiao asked. Yun Nua laughed out loud. Her eyes swept past Bei Yunj, who was in front of her, and she said meaningfully, "Isn't it about to end? Since you're here, you should do something else." With that said, a dark look flashed past Chinyu Jiao's eyes. She could guess what Yun Nua had gone to do just now. The corners of her lips curled up. "Sit down. Let's continue watching the show." The two of them waited for the show to start. Hua-sun stood in front, and received the questions written on the notes by the audience. On Bei Yunja's side, because of the inexplicable pressure, no one dared to give it to her. Why isn't anyone giving it to me? Bei Yunj asked unconsciously. Hua Sun was speechless. Who would dare to give it to you when you have an "don't touch me" expression? The people below the stage could not hear what Bei Yunj and Hua Sun were talking about, but seeing the two of them looking at each other in silence, they felt inexplicably happy. Ha 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 ha. Why do I like Bei Yunj and Hua Sun so much? Don't say. Hua Sun is really good at variety shows. Although Master Pei has the aura of a big boss, when you're on camera with Hua Sun, it feels like you're watching a comedy. Woowij and Sun are a couple. However, although the comments kept flooding the comments, no one thought that someone would personally break their dream of a couple. On the stage, Pei Huaxuan gave Bei Yunj 15 notes and kept 15 for herself. The two of them read the contents of the notes one after another. When the questions were asked, the guests would be invited to the stage to interact with each other. If someone asked him a question, he would answer it himself. However, when Hua Sun saw the next few questions in his hand, he unconsciously frowned, and a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. This time, the audience members had all signed a contract, forbidding anyone from being on the stage. But he had at least 3 pieces of paper in his hand, all of which were related to Bei Yunj. Their questions were all extremely harsh. It was obvious that they were targeting Bei Yunj. Hua Sun took a deep breath and put the notes behind him. He asked a few other questions first. When the other guests went on stage to speak, he told Bei Yunj about it. The purpose of these notes was obviously to embarrass Bei Yunj in public. Bei Yunj hid the coldness in her eyes as the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile. She played with the remaining note in her hand. Yin Nua, who was below the stage, also noticed that Bei Yunj and Hua Sun must be discussing how to solve this problem. She couldn't help but look smug. But who knew? After the guests went on stage and finished speaking, everyone realized that there was a sudden change in the way they interacted. Hua Sun was going to randomly pick someone to go on stage and ask questions. When the audience heard this, they started to talk. Wasn't this depriving them of their rights? But then, just as someone was about to stand up and speak, the people in the second row suddenly stood up. P.S. Good night, continue tomorrow morning. Good girls, remember to vote. Chapter 576. This stunned Hua Sun for a moment. When he saw the man's appearance clearly, he was even more stunned. Was this man the boyfriend of some guest? Hua Sun had seen all kinds of people, and could naturally tell that the man in front of him was not simple. He couldn't be someone's fan, right? At this thought, Hua Sun still maintained his composure. After letting the man come up, he probed, "Are you a fan?" Huashida glanced at Hua Sun carelessly. His thin eyes were filled with elegance as he replied without looking away, Hearing this, Hua Sun was shocked. A man of this level was king chasing idols? Who was so important? Hua Sun could not help but size up Huashidu. The handmade shirt on this person seemed to cost him a month's living expenses. Who are you chasing? Hua Sun blurted out instinctively. On the other hand, the female fans present could not control their girlish hearts and excited screams. Why was Hua Sun so troublesome? They had just fallen in love with a little brother, and he wanted their house to collapse so quickly. It had to be said. The moment Huashidu stood on the stage, his handsome eyes were filled with indifference and laziness. The sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up loosely under his elbows, and his suit pants were too straight, making him look even more refined and dignified. Huashida's eyes swept past him, and finally landed on Bei Yunj beside him. The corners of his lips curled up, and his low voice sounded, "I'm chasing after the lady beside you." With that said, the fans present were about to explode as screams rose and fell. What kind of sweet public confession was this? Wasn't this too much? A large-scale dog-slaughtering scene. Bei Yunj was speechless. Below the stage, Qin Yu had yet to realize that something was wrong. He only felt that fans nowadays loved to imagine things. How was it possible for Goer and Master Du? It was impossible in their next life, let alone their next life. Qin Yu chuckled and continued watching the show with his arms crossed. However, On the other side, Yun Nua's expression changed when she saw that the person on stage was actually Hwashidu. Why would Master Du come to this place? Could it be, was it really for Baeyunj? Last time, at the Qin family's old residence, Yun Nua could tell that Hwashidu treated Baeyunj differently. However, she had always thought that it was just a momentary feeling of novelty. After all, Baeyunj did have the looks to back her up. Why would Master Du come all the way here? Moreover, he didn't mind coming up on stage and being discussed by others. Hua Sun felt that the situation was getting out of hand. The bullet screen was also filled with Wei is dead. Suddenly, Hwashidu chuckled softly. His lazy voice was extremely seductive. Miss Pei, will you give me a chance to woo her? Baeyunj raised her eyebrows. And this time, the voices of the female fans were deafening and frightening. The comments were even more intense. F***ck, 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 F***ck. Why is this man so good at what I like? Is this little brother flirting with Master Pei? My Master Pei didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. Master Pei has tacitly agreed that they can get married now. Please get married on the spot, okay? The scene was very noisy. Baeyunj's lips twitched unconsciously. She did not know what this man was trying to do. However, when Hua Sun sensed the strange atmosphere, he immediately smiled. Chapter 577. Come. Then let's continue reading the questions on the note. Hua Sun had just blurted out when he suddenly realized that he had messed up the matter. He had called someone up just now to ask them questions. But now he was letting others read the note. Wasn't he making things worse? No, Hua Sun was about to change his words when Hwashidu took the note. He looked down carelessly and opened the note with his slender and well-defined hands. However, after seeing the contents, there was a deep coldness in his eyes, but the audience below the stage did not notice it. Sir Yu. Hwashidu slowly folded the note again. His thin eyelids were half lifted and his gaze landed on Baeyunj. Suddenly, the man's thin red lips curled up. I have a question for our Miss Pei. Before anyone could react, everyone saw the man staring straight at the bright and beautiful girl in front of him and chuckling softly. His magnetic voice was light and flirtatious. What type of boy do you like? Do you like brother? As soon as he finished speaking, almost all the girls who were chasing after celebrities could not help but scream excitedly. They could not control their young hearts that were about to jump out. F***ck. Brother is so flirtatious. This is the first time I've seen such a good man. Sob, is he a domineering CEO who walked out of the movie? Is there a fanfic? I want to chase after him. Ha. Our Master Pei is dumbfounded. She's too cute standing there looking at little brother. Baeyunj suppressed the inexplicable beating of her heart and glanced at the man in front of her, who still had a natural expression. She suddenly smiled. Brother, I don't fall in love early. With that said, however, the sense of a couple did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Brother, Master Pei means to get married after high school. The president of Qin Yu's fan club was already shouting at the top of his lungs. Everyone on the scene heard it loud and clear. Baeyunj was speechless. Qin Yu was even more confused, and his handsome face did not look too good. Which eye of hers could tell that her Guer liked Master Du? Hwashidu chuckled and did not speak. He only gestured to her with his eyes. It was as if he was saying, So you want to get married? Baeyunj. Wasn't this dog man getting more and more overboard? At this moment, below the stage, Qin Yu finally felt a sense of danger. He felt that something was wrong, and immediately went to find the director. Hurry up and let Hua Sun continue. My sister is only in her second year of high school. What are you guys doing? It was the director's first time seeing Qin Yu's expression darken. He immediately used the walkie-talkie to speak to Hua Sun. Soon, Hua Sun changed the topic. However, the interaction between Baeyunj and the mysterious man was still unstoppable and became a hot topic. However, it only took about 20 minutes to completely suppress it. Usually, even if the news was suppressed, there would still be big accounts that were not afraid of death. But now, as long as it was related to Bei Yunj, it was as if the higher-ups had issued some kind of order and deleted it very quickly. The trending searches disappeared. Qin Yu also felt slightly uneasy, afraid that Huashidu would really fall in love with his Gu'er. Huashidu was outstanding, and even incomparable to his peers. But how old was his Gu'er? Chapter 578. After leaving the stage, Huashidu watched as Bei Yunj left, the smile on his lips disappearing. His originally indifferent and lazy eyes were now filled with an inhuman coldness. Master Du. Sing Su, who had rushed over, called out carefully, "Go and investigate. If you can't, I'll put the blame on you." Huashidu placed the note on the table beside him, his voice cold. The moment he finished speaking, he saw Qin Yu walking over. "Master Du, I have something to tell you." Qin Yu's expression was dark. Huashidu glanced at him slowly and said to Tsing Su, "Go and investigate first." Okay. After Tsing Su left, Qin Yu saw that there was only him and Huashidu present. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Have you taken a fancy to my sister?" Instead, Huashida's lips curved. There was no panic on his face, and his tone was still light. "Why do you ask? I keep feeling that there's something wrong with your question just now." Qin Yu's ink-like handsome eyes were filled with seriousness. However, after Huashida glanced at him, he only laughed casually. He asked, "Are you wooing your sister?" "Yes. She's still a high school student. Can I do it?" The man's well-defined hand took out a cigarette from the cigarette box carelessly. The way he bit the cigarette was exceptionally lustful. The white smoke curled up and the half-hidden emotions in the man's eyes could not be seen. Hearing this, Qin Yu suddenly realized something. Yes, Master Du was not such a person. However, Qin Yu was still cautious. "Really? Huashida's thin lips curled up, and he answered without any psychological pressure. "Bookstore." So Qin Yu finally heaved a sigh of relief. He knew it. Why would Master Du do such a thing? After that, Bei Yunj wanted to find a hotel nearby, but she suddenly received a call from Tich. After chatting for a while, Bei Yunj decided to meet Tich at the hotel address he had booked. In the hotel lobby, Bei Yunj had just entered when she sat on the sofa in the waiting area. She glanced at her watch and calculated the time. However, at this time, a waiter hurried over and said with a smile, "Miss, we won't be entertaining guests after 10 o'clock today. If you want to stay here, you have to book a room first." Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched, but she felt that this hotel was not bad. So she nodded and followed the waiter to the front desk to register. When Bei Yunj took off her hat and mask and revealed her face, the waiters who met Bei Yunj's eyes were all stunned. Wasn't this girl too good-looking? After Bei Yunj checked all the information, she narrowed her eyes and wrote the registration form with a pen in her slender, fair hand. Her lazy eyes were bright and lazy. "Is that enough?" Only then did the waiter react. He immediately nodded vigorously. Yes. Thank you." Bei Yunj took the room card and walked to the lounge. Another waiter said softly, "She's probably here to try her luck." This doesn't feel like it. She booked a presidential suite and swiped her card without even blinking. The waiter who had just received Bei Yunj spoke up for Bei Yunj. After all, although many young models and internet celebrities had come to stay with them today, most of them asked about the price of the top-floor suite in their hotel, and did not say anything else. Those two rich second-generation heirs naturally stayed on the highest floor. If others wanted to get close to such people, they naturally wanted to get as close as possible. Chapter 579. However, this made sense. Who didn't want to marry into a wealthy family? Moreover, those two rich second-generation heirs weren't ordinary second-generation heirs, but the top second-generation heirs of our nation. That girl looked like that, and had indeed grasped a man's weakness. Thinking of this, the waiter felt jealous, but he didn't say anything that didn't suit his status. However, at this moment, other than the waiter, there were also people in the corridor on the second floor looking at Bei Yunj downstairs. They had the same thoughts as the waiter. "Miss Yen, that woman is probably after young Master Tich." A beautiful woman beside her said with a mean look in her eyes. At Titch's age, there are indeed a lot of girls throwing themselves at him. The person called Miss Yin was wearing a cheongsam and had a graceful figure. However, in the next moment, her voice was filled with natural arrogance as she slowly walked downstairs. But how can such a woman be worthy of Titch? The beautiful woman glanced at her and hid the sarcasm in her eyes. Didn't Yin Herwei climb into Delaney's bed like this back then? She slept with a man who was older than her at the age of 21 and always treated herself as the main wife. But it was good. With this woman, she would have less trouble. Lin Qianyi followed Yin Herwei's footsteps and watched as Yin Herwei stopped in front of Bei Yunj and sized up Bei Yunj arrogantly. "What's your name?" When Bei Yunj heard this, her eyebrows moved without batting an eyelid. She glanced at the woman in front of her who was dressed like a nouveau riche. "What's the matter?" Bei Yunj's voice was lazy and indifferent, and her gaze didn't linger on her. When Yin Herwei saw that Bei Yunj's table had a presidential suite card, and that the clothes she was wearing looked like a high-end foreign brand, she couldn't help but feel an indescribable jealousy. Everything she had now was given to her by the man she had spent so much effort to hook up with. But the girl in front of her was obviously not. Yin Herwei narrowed her eyes and laughed again. She sat opposite Bei Yunj and crossed her legs, revealing the snow-white skin on her thighs. "Which family are you from?" Now, Yin Herwei treated Bei Yunj as a young lady with a decent family background. However, he would still have to be like her, hooking up with the super rich. At the same time, Bei Yunj could not help but frown when she saw the message that Titch had sent her, saying that he would definitely arrive within 10 minutes. So why was he looking for her in the middle of the night? Bei Yunj suppressed her impatience and sent another message to Titch. However, when this scene landed in Yin Herwei's eyes, it was undisguised contempt. Yin Herwei's expression changed and she sneered. "Are you pretending to be so virtuous? Then who are you waiting for in the middle of the night?" As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj's eyes gradually turned cold, but her moist red lips curled up slightly. She looked at her with a faint smile, looking cold and ruthless. "Why are you talking so much? Do you think your days are too long?" Yin Herwei accidentally met Bei Yunj's eyes and felt her scalp go numb. But when she came back to her senses, she felt that she had lost face. She stood up in exasperation. "Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Waiting for someone?" Chapter 580. At this moment, Titch, who was speeding over on his motorcycle, suddenly sneezed. Delaney, who was behind him, immediately covered his mouth and nose, as if a virus had passed through him. "Can't you tell me this in advance?" Titch's eyelids twitched. "You were the one who heard about my teacher and suddenly shamelessly wanted to see her." "I said you sneezed. What if I catch a cold?" Delaney said self-righteously. Titch was speechless. Most fathers would be afraid that their children would catch a cold when they saw them sneeze, right? All of a sudden, Titch wanted to turn around and send this person back. But thinking that Bei Yunj was still waiting for him, he endured it. A few minutes later, the moment Titch brought Delaney in, he saw a beauty who was crying so hard that she bumped into his arms. Seeing this, Titch frowned and dodged to the side. At this moment, Yin Herwei realized that she had almost thrown herself at the wrong person. Her face was green and red. Then, she ran in front of Delaney and hugged his waist intimately. It had to be said that although Delaney was in his 40s or 50s, he only looked like he was in his early 30s. His figure was still perfect and capable. Even in her 40s or 50s, Yin Herwei did not lose out much. "Darling, a woman hit me just now because I said a few more words." Delaney had always been protective of the fairer sex. Seeing that Yin Herwei's face was indeed red, he could not help but touch her face. He comforted her. "You're not disfigured. Don't worry." Yin Herwei's face froze. Then she said coquettishly, "You said you loved me last time, but now you don't feel sorry for me at all." Hearing this, Delaney realized that Yin Herwei was beating around the bush to get him to help her vent her anger. Delaney agreed. "Bring me to take a look at the situation first." If that woman really went overboard, he would naturally protect Yin Herwei. After all, Yin Herwei was his woman, although she was just his new girlfriend. However, Titch was disdainful when he saw this scene. Yen Herwei was the one who thought the most. She thought that Delaney would marry her and treat her as a junior. What a joke. Who didn't know that Delaney's girlfriend wouldn't last more than 3 months? At the thought of this, Titch felt that this woman had embarrassed his teacher. They grew up in the same place, but he couldn't even compare to a strand of his teacher's hair. Thinking of this, Titch couldn't be bothered to deal with the two of them. He simply went to look for Bei Yunj. Titch's eyes lit up when he saw the figure in the living room. He immediately walked over to Bei Yunj and greeted her cautiously. Bei Yunj glanced at him casually. He didn't seem to be in high spirits either. "Teacher, you don't seem to be in a good mood today." Titch probed carefully. Could it be that he had been sitting here for too long and was angry with her? At this moment, Lin Qianni's eyes lit up when she saw Yen Herwei's message. She planned to look for Titch. She didn't expect Titch to be sitting next to Bei Yunj. They looked very close. Lin Qianni's expression immediately changed. Did this woman really hook up with Titch? After a long time, Lin Qianni finally snapped out of her daze. She gritted her teeth and sent Yen Herwei a text. When Yen Herwei saw this text message, she was also furious. How could a woman be so scheming? Titch had only been in there for a short while, and she had already hooked up with him. Yen Herwei sneered. She didn't even see if she was worthy. Chapter 581. What's wrong, my dear? Delaney was still a little patient with his female companion. My dear, that woman seems to have designs on Titch. Yen Herwei bit her lip and said coquettishly. Delaney paused when he heard that. He did not expect Titch to have such a market these days. Then, before Delaney could finish, Yen Herwei pulled him back and refused to let him go. You said you would help me deal with her. When did he say such a thing? However, Delaney still maintained the silence of a big shot. After thinking for a while, he nodded reservedly and brought Yen Herwei in. Seeing this, Yen Herwei smiled through her tears. On the other side, Bei Yunj sat downstairs drinking water. Titch, who was beside her, threw her a math problem from time to time, trying to divert Bei Yunj's attention and change her mood. However, Bei Yunj could not help but take another look at Titch. Titch. When Titch heard Bei Yunj suddenly call his name, he thought that his teacher had a whole new level of respect for him, because he solved the problem too quickly. What's wrong? Titch suppressed his pounding heart. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj only looked at him with a complicated expression. You're so bad at math. There will be limitations when you learn computer science in the future. Titch was speechless. Fine. He was thinking too much. The thought of his teacher being nominated for both Farisk and Busaka at such a young age, and even solving 1,000 questions made him doubt his life. How could someone be so smart? Titch didn't know that when he shone in school, his classmates also thought the same way. However, when Titch thought that such a powerful person was his teacher, he started to get excited again. He asked shyly, Teacher, what do you think of me? Bei Yunj continued to dig into the cake with her fork without looking up. What? Just, when do you think I can win a Busaka prize? Titch immediately said. Bei Yunj stopped eating the cake and was silent for a long time. Titch, I'm glad that you know how to improve yourself. Before Titch could rejoice, he heard Bei Yunj say, But don't make things difficult for me. Titch, study hard. You'll get everything you want. Bei Yunj was probably afraid that Titch would be frustrated, so she added, I'll try my best to get you on the right track as soon as possible. Bei Yunj thought that Titch was hinting for her to teach faster. But with Titch and Jasmine's level, she would have to lay down the foundation for them for at least a few years. Titch did not expect that in Bei Yunj's eyes, he had not even entered the right path of his profession. After that, just as Titch was unable to recover from the blow, he suddenly heard a harsh and familiar voice. Honey, look, it's this woman. How dare she hit me? Titch frowned. He looked up and saw Yen Herwei's pretentious look. He narrowed his eyes and sneered. Miss Yen, who are you complaining about? Honey, look, Titch has only interacted with this woman for a while, and he's already helping her. Yen Herwei bit her lip, but her eyes were filled with viciousness. She had to make this woman pay the price. However, Yen Hurwei did not notice that Delaney's gaze was also on the person sitting on the sofa. He looked at this familiar face and suppressed his inexplicable excitement. He was also a little afraid of disturbing Bei Yunj. Delaney probed carefully. Why? Teacher Pei? Love House. Bei Yunj only looked up when she heard the familiar voice. When she saw Delaney, she could not help but frown. Why are you here? Delaney's excited smile froze. What should he say? Should he say that he forced Tich to help him ask her out because she had been ignoring him? I think the scenery here is not bad. As soon as Delaney finished speaking, the woman beside him still could not see the situation clearly. Yen Hurwei widened her eyes and said unhappily, Honey, didn't you say you would help me teach her a lesson? Why are you? Shut up. Delaney's eyelids twitched in fright. Teach her a lesson? Did he not want to work in the company anymore? Was that why he wanted to teach the god of fortune, that he had painstakingly relied on his son to get close to? Delaney. Yen Hurwei could not believe that Delaney would treat her like this. Then Delaney pulled Yen Hurwei's hand away from his and walked towards Bei Yunj to pour some tea for Bei Yunj. Teacher Pei, I really didn't expect to have the chance to see you. Bei Yunj also looked at him. I didn't expect this either. Delaney's heart ached. This was the first time he met someone who could not even be bothered to lie to him. So Bei Yunj really did not plan to see him? Is this your girlfriend? At this moment, Bei Yunj looked up and suddenly asked casually. Delaney froze. This? He really did not expect Yen Hurwei to be so bold as to provoke Bei Yunj. I did hit her, Bei Yunj said unhurriedly. Tich, who was beside him, looked down and did not intend to interfere at all. Anyway, when it came to his teacher, his father was more cowardly than anyone else. It had to be said that Tich knew Delaney very well. Honey, look. She really attacked me. Yen Hurwei still refused to give up. She did not have any foresight at all. Delaney's expression did not look too good either. He did not expect a woman to be so stupid. Miss Yen, you can leave now. He would definitely side with Bei Yunj. However, he also knew Bei Yunj's personality very well. If she had not provoked him, Bei Yunj would not have looked at Yen Hurwei. Delaney, are you breaking up with me? Yen Hurwei's eyes immediately turned red. Lin Qianni, who had walked down from upstairs, originally wanted to see Yen Hurwei deal with Bei Yunj, but she did not expect to hear that Yen Hurwei was going to be broken up in public. Lin Qianni froze and instinctively looked at the few people not far away. I don't need a female companion who sows discord, Delaney said coldly. He did not even admit that he had a girlfriend. Yen Hurwei's face turned pale, and her mind was in a mess. She did not expect Delaney to break up with her because of this. At this moment, Yen Hurwei then realized that Delaney had been calling this person teacher. A person who Delaney called teacher. She originally thought that it might be someone who had taught Tich before. But on second thought, Tich was a few years older than this girl. If this was Tich's teacher, it would be too unbelievable. Moreover, Tich was a student of Neely University. Chapter 582. When Bei Yunj heard this, she immediately understood why Tich had asked her out at this time. She glanced at Tich and did not say anything. She did not mind satisfying her student's little thoughts. Not long after, Tich heard the person beside him say lazily, "Next time, you can be more direct with me." She might not reject him. It was just that she was too lazy to socialize and maintain interpersonal relationships. Tich was stunned when he heard this. Then complicated and touched emotions rose in his heart, and his face heated up. Teacher, I'm sorry. He thought that with Bei Yunj's personality, she would definitely be angry or ask him to change his mentor. He did not expect Bei Yunj to say this. I'll get you more cake. Tich saw that Bei Yunj was about to finish the cake in her hands, so he stood up diligently and ran to the restaurant at the back. At this moment, only Delaney and the others were left. Delaney looked up and met Bei Yunj's eyes. Miss Pei. Delaney, I was wrong. I didn't know she knew you. Yen Hurwei interrupted Delaney and finally reacted. She realized that this person was not to be trifled with. However, Delaney, who was afraid of offending Bei Yunj, could not reconcile with this woman. Delaney took out a check and gave it to Yin Herue. Sorry, we're not suitable for each other. Yin Herue's face was pale. She could not help but look at Bei Yunj, feeling indignant. Was Delaney going to break up with her just because she was a teacher? However, she could clearly tell that Delaney's attitude towards her was very careful. Even Titch's attitude towards this girl did not seem like he had feelings for his sweetheart. Instead, there was an inexplicable respect. When Delaney and Bei Yunj went to the conference room on the second floor to discuss matters, Yin Herue was still unwilling to leave. How could she give up on the sugar daddy that she had painstakingly hooked up with? However, because Delaney's bodyguard stopped her, she could not get close. She could only wait downstairs with a breakdown. How could this be? When Yin Herue thought of what Bei Yunj had said to her just now, her face turned even paler. This girl was really waiting for someone. She was waiting for Titch and the others, however. She thought that this girl was trying to cling to the rich and powerful. So she kept ridiculing her to find a sense of accomplishment. Now it's all good. In the end, she had offended someone she shouldn't have offended, and all her efforts were in vain. Second floor. Miss Pei, she has offended you. In the future, I won't use her for anything related to the company. Don't worry. Yin Herue was a C-list artiste. Recently, because of Delaney, she had received a lot of resources and became a familiar face on the screen. But now, Delaney did not have the courage to continue supporting Yin Herue. There was a reason why Delaney was popular with women in the circle. He doted on women and was generous. Even if they broke up, he would still miss their old relationship. But this time it was clearly different. Mr. Delaney, you won't gain anything by doing this. Bei Yunj said leisurely without hiding anything. Since Delaney had such plans, she would not plead for Yin Herue. Whatever he wanted to do had nothing to do with her. She would not put an effort on unimportant people. She had gotten back what she wanted. Of course, I understand. Delaney felt his teeth ache. But fortunately, he already knew that this person was difficult to please. Are you looking for me because of the project? I've already handed it to Marcus. Bei Yunj said unhurriedly. It's our first time meeting, so I should congratulate you first. Congratulations to Miss Pei for being nominated for 2 awards this year. Delaney smiled with a rosy face, looking very happy. Back then, it was his discerning eyes that had discovered Bei Yunj's potential. As a matter of fact, in everyone's eyes, the first project was taken by him. However, when he thought of the girl's age, his scalp turned numb. She was not even 20 years old. In the future, if Bei Yunj grew up, Country A's computing field would definitely be an unprecedented scene. At the thought of this, Delaney felt that Jones, who had been fired after a month, should be dragged out and shot. It would be more worth the loss of Country R. There's no need to say anything nice. What's the matter? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and asked. Actually, Delaney looked at Bei Yunj and blurted out. I want to ask about Titch. Bei Yunj paused and looked at Delaney. She thought that Delaney was here for her new project. After all, she could tell that Delaney was an absolutely mature businessman. I know that you want to stay in Yuncheng to develop. To you, Titch is just an intern at Country R's Computing Institute. But as Titch's father, I want to ask you if there's still a chance for you to continue taking care of Titch? It's fine even if Titch stays in Yuncheng. Delaney had already discussed this matter with Marcus. If Titch had the ability to follow Bei Yunj, his future would definitely be limitless. Just because of this, there was no emotion on Bei Yunj's face as she asked casually. Delaney was a little nervous. After all, his ex-girlfriend had just offended Bei Yunj. Yes, if they're willing to learn, there's nothing I can't do. Hearing Bei Yunj's words, Delaney was very touched. Then he heard her say, although their aptitude is a little lacking, hard work can make up for it. Delaney said, you're right. He had heard about it before. Bei Yunj was very popular in Country R's Computing Institute, and all the interns chose to let Bei Yunj teach a class. In the end, after that, no one dared to let Bei Yunj teach a class. Only Titch and Jasmine, who had some kind of self-torture mentality, became braver the more they were defeated. So you mean you agree? Delaney asked carefully again. Bae-yunj thought for a moment. Let's wait for them to graduate before coming to Yincheng. I'll talk to Marcus and let the two of them stay in their institute for a while. Okay, I'll listen to you. Delaney nodded repeatedly. Bae-yunj looked at him for a while and laughed. I thought you wanted to talk to me about the new project. I did. Delaney was a little helpless. But ever since you left Country R's Computing Institute, Titch has been quite nervous. He was afraid that you would leave, so he didn't bring him along. No wonder the reports have been submitted so quickly recently. Bae-yunj nodded. Delaney was speechless. All right, I'm going upstairs to rest. You can talk to the manager of the Computing Institute about the new project. With that, Bae-yunj went upstairs. At this moment, Delaney turned around and saw his son's touched face. Dad. Goosebumps rose all over Delaney's body. Why is this troublesome thing here? P.S. There's more. Chapter 583. Upstairs. Bae-yunj had just finished showering when she saw the messages the two of them had sent her. After replying, she called Hwashido again before preparing to rest. At this moment, downstairs, the man had just arrived at the lobby and attracted the attention of the two ladies at the front desk. She originally thought that Titch and Jasmine, who had come in the past 2 days, were enough to shock people with their looks. In the end, this man in front of her completely matched their standards of beauty. Suite K1209's room card. Sang-soo walked forward and said familiarly. Hearing this, the lady at the front desk froze. A room card that started with K12. This was reserved for people in President Yu's circle. She had always heard that K1201 was reserved for President Yu, and K1209 was reserved for that person from the Hua family. At this thought, the lady at the front desk did not dare to breathe too loudly. After verifying his identity, she immediately brought him to the 12th floor. In the elevator, Sang-soo hurriedly tore off Bae-yunj's dining habits from his small notebook and handed it to the lady at the front desk, as he said with a smile. The guest from 1205, please prepare for tomorrow morning's meal. Okay. The lady at the front desk nodded immediately, but her heart was surging. Wasn't the guest from 1205 the young lady from just now? It's been hard on you. Our young lady doesn't stay outside much. I'm afraid she won't be used to it. Sang-soo smiled. It's not hard at all. From Sang-soo's address and attitude towards that young lady, the lady at the front desk could tell that that young lady did not have a shameful identity. She was simply a pampered young lady from a wealthy family. Until they entered the study of the suite, Sang-soo finally spoke. Master Du, we've found out about Miss Pei. The person who did this is Miss Yin Nua. The Yin family had nothing to do with the Hua family, but they had always been on good terms with the Qin family. Miss Qin Yojiao was probably the reason why they could do this. Seeing that Hwashido did not speak, Sang-soo asked carefully, Then should we arrange something? Sang-soo was a little uncertain. After all, Hwashido and Yin Nua knew each other because of Qin Yu. However, Bae-yunj's position in Hwashido's heart was even more obvious. Soon, Hwashido lit a cigarette and leaned against the chair lazily. His handsome eyes were cold and abstinent. His voice was low and indifferent, but it was unreasonable. If the Yun family can't teach their daughter how to behave, then let someone teach the Yun family how to behave. Sang-soo's body stiffened when he heard this. Who would have thought that Master Du would directly make a move on the Yun family because of this matter? He didn't care about their previous nodding acquaintance. Then about Miss Yin Nua, Sang-soo asked carefully. In the future, I don't want her to have any chance to meet my child again. The man's tone was casual. However, Sang-soo understood Hwashido's intentions. He wanted Promise Yin to leave the industry. Sang-soo nodded and smiled. Yes, I know what to do. Since they dared to touch their young miss, they should be taught a lesson. At noon the next day, all the major media outlets fought to report about how the female star Yin Nua relied on her family background, faked her academic qualifications, and bullied others in high school. When Promise Yin saw the news, he panicked and immediately realized who was behind it. Nuonuo, quickly contact your father. The company's public relations can't suppress the popularity at all, and those media outlets refused to delete it. Under the urging of her manager, She hurriedly made a call and cried, "Dad, save me! Yin Nua, something happened at the company. Your brother was taken away by the police." The middle-aged man's voice was hoarse. Chapter 584. Yin Nua felt as if all the blood in her body had turned cold. "What's wrong, Dad? What on earth happened?" Yin Nua forced herself to ask rationally. "We don't know either. The Yin family was suddenly investigated by the higher-ups. Also, your brother has been detained because of what happened at the company." Yin Nua's father took a deep breath. "I'm still thinking of a way to get your brother out. Don't cause trouble." With that said, Yin Nua's father hung up. Yin Nua did not dare to imagine that that person would be so ruthless for Bei Yunji's sake. He would not even let the Yin family off. Thinking of this, Yin Nua gritted her teeth and called Sung Su. Fortunately, Sung Su did not block her number. However, from Sung Su's voice, it was obvious that he knew that she would come looking for him. "Miss Yin, what's the matter?" Sung Su asked with a smile. "Was Master Du behind what happened to my family?" Yin Nua's voice was trembling. Sung Su did not answer. Instead, he smiled and said, "Were you behind Miss Pei's matter?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yin Nua's scalp went numb. "It was really for Bei Yunj. You did this just for Bei Yunj. Was it Bei Yunj who told Master Du that I was the one who did it?" Yin Nua's voice was a little crazy, and her eyes were red. How could she not compare to that girl who came back from the slums? "Miss Pei, Master Du will investigate too. Everyone who has designs on Miss Pei will not be able to escape." Sung Su smiled. After all, Miss Pei is the person in Master Du's heart. As soon as she returned home, Bei Yunj was informed by Auntie Meow that something seemed to have happened to Huashidu, and he had to go abroad for a few days. Although Huashidu would text Bei Yunj every day, for some reason, Bei Yunj had a vague feeling that something had happened. A few days later, in the evening, a girl's bar, Bei Yunj lowered the brim of her hat and scanned the people around her. She found a boy in a black t-shirt not far away. "Lu Yuanxi." Bei Yunj's tone was not very friendly. "You're here, Master Pei. How are your teeth now?" Lu Yuanxi stood up and asked with a smile. "Bei Yunj. Yunj, let's go to the private room." Chu Zhixing was there too. It was obvious that this was to make up for the previous birthday party. "Let's go before 9:30. Bei Yunj suppressed his twitching eyebrows and glanced at the two of them leisurely. 9:30? Isn't it too early?" Lu Yuanxi frowned. "There's a curfew at home." Bei Yunj laughed lazily. Subsequently, just as everyone was about to leave, they suddenly heard a shout not far away. This attracted their attention. Everyone looked over and saw a table of people making things difficult for the two waiters. "Is it so difficult for you to have a few drinks? I didn't ask you to sleep with me." The man was wearing a suit, but his mouth was saying extremely obscene words. When Lu Yuanxi and the other boys heard this, they unconsciously frowned. Although this kind of thing was extremely common in such a place where fish and dragons mixed together. "Sorry, my friend can't drink." Another slightly cold female voice sounded, but it attracted Bei Yunj's attention. She turned around and found that one of the girls who was protecting the waitress, whose chest was drenched, was Song Yao. Bei Yunj frowned. Then, before Lu Yuanxi and the rest could react, they saw Bei Yunj walking over. On the sofa. Chapter 585. After you drink this wine, I'll let your friend go. That man stared at Song Yao unabashedly, his eyes full of lust. This scene was noticed by many people. However, when the people who originally wanted to help the two waiters saw a handsome man in a black silk shirt with curly hair sitting opposite them, they gave up on this idea. It was Fu Yanbai, the young master of the Fu Corporation. "Don't embarrass me, Miss Song. Could it be that you and your friend don't want to work here anymore?" The man smiled maliciously. Even though Song Yao's work pass was a fake name, he still called her Miss Song. It was obvious that they were old acquaintances. Song Yao pursed her lips and felt Fu Yanbai's gaze on her. The corners of her lips twitched slightly. Then she reached for the wine on the table. But in the next second, her other slender hand picked up the wine glass even faster. Her clear and lazy voice sounded lazily. I'm sorry, she can't drink. I'll drink this wine for Yao Yao. With that said, Bei Yunj took the wine on the table and drank it in one gulp. Song Yao was stunned by this scene. Yunj, why are you here? Bei Yunj glanced at her. It was obvious that she did not want to talk to her right now. At this moment, the man stood up suddenly and his expression changed. Who are you? Do you know? Just as Bei Yunj turned around and saw Bei Yunj's face clearly, the man was dazed. He thought that the elder young miss of the Song family was unforgettable enough. However, this person in front of him could be said to be stunning. Even Yu Ling, whom Fu Yanbai was deeply in love with back then, could not compare to her. So you're Miss Song's friend. The man immediately revealed an even more malicious smile and poured a glass of wine for Bei Yunj with a smile. Since we're friends, of course we have to drink more. Hearing this, behind them, Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing frowned and their eyes turned cold. Yunj, don't worry. Song Yao bit her lip. She knew that Fu Yanbai was deliberately making things difficult for her and did not want Bei Yunj to get involved. Suddenly, Bei Yunj held her hand and chuckled. Why don't you drink more? Before the man could react, Bei Yunj picked up the wine glass on the table. Before anyone could react, the wine was poured over his head. The man was so drenched that he shivered and did not come back to his senses for a moment. The next moment he heard her chuckle. How is it? Are you sober now? How dare you treat me like this? The man was furious. He wiped his face and looked at Bei Yunj in disbelief. She wished she could skin Bei Yunj alive. This scene stunned Song Yao completely. She stood rooted to the ground in a daze and forgot to pull Bei Yunj. The first cup is to give you face. The second cup is to remind you to save your face and get lost. Do you understand, everyone? Bei Yunj looked at him with a faint smile. He slowly put down the wine glass, but the coldness in his eyes was terrifying. It made everyone present feel inexplicably shocked. It seems like Miss Pei's temper has always been bad. Suddenly Fu Yanbai, who had been silent all this while, spoke. You're really courting death. You even dare to interfere in young Master Fu's matters. The man wiped his face with a tissue and said fiercely to Bei Yunj. He hoped that Fu Yanbai would quickly teach this reckless little bee *th a lesson. So it's young Master Fu. I'm sorry. My deskmate has a bad temper. Lu Yuanxi walked over from the side and stood beside Bei Yunj. He had a hand in his pocket and smiled casually. Chapter 586. He's the young master of the Lu family? The people around Fu Yanbai immediately recognized Lu Yuanxi. Then, Chu Zhixing also came over and spoke elegantly. President Fu, I'm sorry to have disturbed your mood. With that said, the people behind Fu Yanbai widened their eyes. This is the second young master of the Chu family? Why were all the people around this girl so important? Why, are you her deskmate too? Fu Yanbai stared at Chu Zhixing for a while and asked. The Chu family and the Fu family had a relationship. No, but that's our Master Pei. Chu Zhixing chuckled. It was obvious. Both of them were protecting Bei Yunj. After a long time, Fu Yanbai's gaze shifted to Bei Yunj. He smiled as well, his eyes burning. You're very capable. Can anyone become your helper if you want? But the way he looked at her seemed to be looking at another person through her. He wanted this girl. However, the troublesome thing was that he could not offend that person from the Hua family. Gur. Song Yao grabbed Bei Yunj's hand and looked at Fu Yanbai warily. How could she not tell that Fu Yanbai's attitude towards Bei Yunj was very different? Young Master Fu, the Fu family can't withstand the torment. Do you need help? Bei Yunj chuckled. Her beautiful eyes filled with arrogance and hostility. With that said, the people around Fu Yanbai could not help but look at Bei Yunj. They felt that Bei Yunj was bold and curious about her. Did this woman know what status the Fu family had? She was so happy. She dared to say such words. The Qin family is at its peak now, but it doesn't mean that they can touch the Fu family. As for that person from the Hua family, do you think he will deal with the Fu family for you? Fu Yanbai smiled. Young Master Fu, you're so confident. Why don't you think about why you can't get the 11 project? Bei Yunj asked with a smile. When Fu Yanbai heard this, the calmness on his face disappeared and his eyes darkened. How did she know about the 11 project? Did Huashita tell her? The Qin family was not involved in any technology projects, so it was almost impossible for them to know that the Fu family was talking about the 11 project. This was the right to use a regional project that the Fu Corporation had bought from the Delaney Group. It was the first project of the researchers who had obtained Busaka and Farisk some time ago. Apart from the Fu's enterprise, there were also other companies in a land vying for this piece of juicy meat. However, Delaney was the first to reject the Fu Corporation. Even the reason was very perfunctory and puzzling. How do you know about the 11 project? I thought you would ask me why I couldn't get the 11 project. Bei Yunji's bright eyes curved into crescents, looking lazy and arrogant. After saying this, she pulled Song Yao and left the hall on the first floor. Everyone else was silent. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little cold. Originally, he had come to take care of Song Yao today as a routine, but he did not expect an accident. Young Master Fu about Song Yao. At this moment, the boss of the bar ran over, his back covered in sweat. He couldn't afford to offend Fu Yanbai, but he couldn't afford to offend the Chu and Lu families either. They were really making things difficult for him, a businessman. I won't let her off. Fu Yanbai's voice was cold. If it wasn't for Song Yao, Yuling wouldn't have jumped into the sea to commit suicide. Master Pei, why are you smashing someone's place just because of a disagreement? Chapter 587. It was Chu Zhixing's first time seeing someone scold Fu Yanbai like that. He did not know how Fu Yanbai had offended Master Pei. I gave him face, but he didn't want it. After Bei Yunji finished speaking slowly, he turned to glance at Song Yao. What's wrong with you? The adventures of a silly work girl? Song Yao said. No, it's just that my family isn't very well off. Bei Yunji did not notice at first. After all, Song Yao's aura did not seem like a girl from an ordinary family. Did something happen at home? After Bei Yunji brought her into the private room, he let go of her and pulled off the work pass on her chest. He took off his coat and put it on her. I'm bankrupt. Song Yao nodded. She looked gentle and calm. Lu Yuanxi could not help laughing. Master Pei, can you not be so fierce to girls? Pei Yunji glanced at him. I'll go get the wine. Lu Yuanxi immediately turned and left. Don't drink. I'll get Lu Yuanxi to send you back later. Bei Yunji glanced at Song Yao and smiled lazily. After all, I'm a girl. It's not safe for me. Lu Yuanxi was speechless. Your King afraid of being unsafe? Was he the one who poured wine on someone's head at the table just now? Song Yao could not help but laugh. I can go back myself. Nothing happened. I'll send you back. My desk mate is my friend. With that said, Lu Yuanxi opened the door and went out. Meanwhile, Chu Zhixing and the other students were playing in the private room. At this moment, Song Yao roughly told Bei Yunji about what had happened at home. Because Song Yao had offended Fu Yanbai, Fu Yanbai had used the Fu Corporation to make the Song Corporation bankrupt. Song Yao's father could not bear the burden and committed suicide, leaving her and her mother to live together. However, perhaps because Fu Yanbai felt that this was not enough, he forced her to work in a bar. He would come and find trouble with her a few times a month. Actually, the reason why I'm restudying is not because of anything else. At that time, I had already received the acceptance letter from Jin University, but because of Fu Yanbai, I was disqualified. Song Yao said calmly without any resentment. Jin University's admission scores for the past 2 years were not much different from Yun University's. Because of Yu Ling, a woman he likes, Song Yao said. Bei Yunji frowned and looked at her. Yu Ling. Previously, she had heard Huashita talk about this person. Yes, we're classmates. When she was in her second year of high school, she started chasing Fu Yanbai. The two of them often quarreled because of the difference in status. Song Yao said with a smile. Yuling always felt that Fu Yanbai didn't respect her, and she knew that I used to like Fu Yanbai too, so she often came over to ask me to be with Fu Yanbai after quarreling. Almost every time they quarreled, she would hear Fu Yanbai say in front of Yuling, and everyone else that he didn't like her, and coax Yuling. She was a socialite who had been pampered since she was young, but she couldn't compare to Yuling. Song Yao took a deep breath. However, there's indeed something wrong with Fu Yanbai. After finding out about Yuling's existence from the Fu family, Old Master Fu didn't agree to let Yuling in. On the other hand, Yuling was proud and wanted to leave when she threw a tantrum, but Fu Yanbai imprisoned her in his house. In order to coax Yuling, Fu Yanbai asked me to talk to her. Chapter 588. Did she fall in accidentally? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. The rumors outside were that she had committed suicide. A person like her won't commit suicide. She knows very well that Fu Yanbai dotes on her. As long as she makes a fuss, Fu Yanbai will give her everything. Song Yao smiled. No matter how sick Fu Yanbai's feelings for Yuling were, Yuling was still able to handle him. She knew that only Fu Yanbai could give her what she wanted. You're not friends with her, right? Bei Yunj glanced at her. Song Yao nodded hesitantly, but she pinched the corner of her skirt unconsciously. This was the first time someone had said this. As for the others, they always thought that she had a good relationship with Yuling. But no, it was never like that. Silly girl. Bei Yunj smirked unconsciously and poked Song Yao's head with her index finger. But no one will find trouble with their friends time and time again. I've never liked her. Song Yao did not hide her feelings for Yuling at all. Do I look like her? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. If they were really that alike, why did Song Yao treat her so well the moment they met? As a result, Bei Yunj had always wondered if this girl was stupid. Do we look alike? Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj and shook her head. I don't think so. She liked Bei Yunj because Bei Yunj was good-looking. She looked like the ragdoll cat she had raised before when she was half asleep on the table. Hearing this, Bei Yunj lost interest in Fu Yanbai and his wife. How much money does your family owe? Bei Yunj asked. I know you're very good, but I shouldn't trouble you. Song Yao had a bottom line in her heart. There were some things that she shouldn't trouble her friends with. Bei Yunj took out a card and stuffed it into Song Yao's pocket. She said slowly, "Then you can sell yourself to me. You can work and go to school at the same time. Do you want to participate in the competition?" But I owe a lot. Song Yao couldn't even look up and didn't dare to look at Bei Yunj. There's 100 million in this card. If you think it's not enough, I'll bring another card tomorrow. Song Yao was speechless. Had she been away from the rich for too long? The pocket money of the rich and powerful nowadays was measured in hundreds of millions. In the past, she only had a few 100,000 yuan in pocket money a month. I can't take this money. Song Yao returned the card to Bei Yunj. I didn't say that you can't pay me back. The winner of the world championship gets 300,000 yuan, Bei Yunj said. Song Yao asked, You're not participating? Yes. Bei Yunj had no intention of going abroad for the Youth World Championship. But first place is too difficult. Before Song Yao could finish speaking, she felt Bei Yunj's gaze and fell silent. When Lu Yuanxi returned, he saw the crime scene. Cough, cough. Let's drink. Lu Yuanxi immediately eased the atmosphere and made up for the birthday party that he did not follow the procedures properly last time. The next day, Fu Yanbai received a call. What is it? Fu Yanbai's voice was hoarse. There was a female companion on the bed. Young Master Fu, Song Yao returned the money. Hearing this, Fu Yanbai's eyes turned cold. More than 70 million yuan. How could Song Yao have the money to return it? Soon Fu Yanbai thought of that person from yesterday. Bei Yunj. After a while he said coldly, I'll deal with it. Was Song Yao trying to escape? Did she think that she could live a stable life just because someone had returned the money for her? She should live a lowly life for the rest of her life to atone for her sins. Chapter 589. Yu Manran was jealous and felt that his status was not as good as before. Who is this girl? Is she your friend? Bei Yunj looked at Song Yao, who was still doing questions not far away. She was leaning against the corridor and drinking water. Why are you so good to her? Yu Manran was jealous. This little kid has always wanted to return my money. I'm afraid that something will happen to her. So I think it's safe with you. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. If this doesn't work, I can only attack the Fu Corporation first. Wait, Song Yao's name. After regaining his senses, Yu Manran was shocked. The eldest young lady of the Song family? You know her? I know her. She used to be very famous, and was good friends with Fu Yinbai's dead ex-girlfriend. Yu Manran said. They're not, Bei Yunj said calmly. I see. Yu Manran seemed to understand. Then I understand. I'll arrange for someone to audition for her as a model. She seems to have been forced to repeat her second year of high school, right? Then I'll arrange for less work. Okay, thank you, Man. In our nation, Huashidu received a call. It was from Fu Yinbai. After Huashidu answered the call, he heard him suppressing his anger, but there was still a hint of anger in his voice. Master Du is so generous to the young lady. You can take out 70 to 80 million yuan so easily? What's the matter? Huashidu's deep and indifferent voice was cold. Bei Yunj casually gave Song Yao 70 to 80 million yuan to pay off her debt. Doesn't Master Du think anything of it? Fu Yinbai could not help but come to look for Huashidu. Huashidu's eyebrows moved. He did not have any impression of the name Song Yao. He said slowly, Is that so? Then, beautiful book bar. Before Fu Yinbai could speak, he heard Huashidu's conversation. Seng Su, pay this debt for Miss, so that there won't be enough next month. The man's low and magnetic voice said lazily. Seng Su suppressed the surging emotions in his heart. Yes. Wasn't Bei Yunj too much? Pay a debt of 7 to 8,000 yuan? Master Du, aren't you afraid of spoiling her? Fu Yinbai's face was ashen. He had never thought that a man could spoil a woman to this extent. I'll deal with what she's done. As for young Master Fu, take care of yourself. After that, Huashidu hung up. It also caused Fu Yinbai's face to turn pale and green. Master Du, that money is really... Seng Su hesitated. The man's thin eyelids didn't even lift as he said lightly, Yes, I did. Huashidu did not show it either. Bei Yunj did not know where the money came from. He just asked Seng Su to transfer more money into Bei Yunj's bank account. He knew this little girl's temperament very well. She wouldn't do anything out of line. Also, get someone to keep a close eye on the Fu family. The little girl has a bad temper. When necessary, just take care of her. There's no need to save face for others. Huashidu's meaning was very obvious. If the Fu family provoked Bei Yunj, in order to make Bei Yunj happy, they could deal with the Fu family in any way. Yes, Seng Yu happened to come back from her patrol. I'll get Seng Yu to follow Mississippi, Seng Su nodded. At Yun University, Bei Yunj had just entered the multimedia hall when she heard an unfamiliar female voice. Song Yao, do you really think that you can participate in the world competition? Chapter 590. Bei Yunj stopped at the door and raised her pretty eyes slowly. She saw a girl in a blue short dress standing in front of Song Yao arrogantly with everyone. Yes, if you have the chance, why don't you? Song Yao's tone was gentle, and she had a smile on her face. However, her words made the expressions of the girls present stiffen. They felt like they wanted to flare up, but they didn't know where to vent their anger. This Song Yao used to be a noble person, but she had become like this. Song Yao, I think you're too depraved. Su Xianing narrowed her eyes and laughed coldly. Student Su, if you're done, can you leave now? Song Yao did not plan to fight with Su Xianing, but at this moment, Su Xianing laughed coldly and saw the 2 exercise books in Song Yao's hands. Then, before Song Yao could react, Su Xianing quickly took the exercise books. Su Xianing. Song Yao's eyes immediately turned cold, and she stood up. You're finally willing to flare up? Instead, Su Xianing smirked and flipped through the 2 exercise books. So you're doing homework for others, Miss Song. This has nothing to do with you. Song Yao clenched her fists, a cold glint in her eyes. She did not care about being pointed at. But Su Xianing obviously would not miss this opportunity to target Bei Yunj. Apologize to me and admit that it was because of you that Yuling got into trouble. Su Xianing looked down at her. Hearing this, even Song Yao's eyes were filled with coldness. However, after hesitating for a moment, Her clenched fist slowly relaxed. You know that this class doesn't allow such behavior, right? I heard that the teachers of the ordinary class like you, so nothing might happen to you. What about Bei Yunj? Hearing this, Song Yao's hand loosened completely. She pursed her lips. Su Xianing, suddenly. What do you think will happen to me? A clear and melodious voice rang out. Then, before Su Xianing could turn back to look at her, a slender and fair hand pulled the 2 exercise books away. You. Su Xianing's face twisted. Bei Yunj did not even look at Su Xianing from the corner of her eye. She walked in front of Song Yao and patted her head with the exercise book. She said lazily, What are you thinking about, Tian? You're admitting that you didn't do it? Song Yao was speechless. She was certain that this Tian was definitely the Tian in the idiotic sense. Bei Yunj, I've already caught evidence of Song Yao copying homework for you. You. Go ahead, snitch. Bei Yunj sat beside Song Yao and slowly flipped through the exercise book. She had just picked up the pen when she thought for a while, and pushed the exercise book to Song Yao. Continue writing. The bullying at the scene was very arrogant. Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj, and was silent for a while before she picked up the pen and wrote slowly. During this period of time, Bei Yunj would call her to correct the wrong questions, even if she didn't come. Bei Yunj's book was also used by her to review her mistakes. When Su Xianing saw this, her expression changed. You. Oh, why is this student from the advanced class in our class? The lecturer walked in slowly with a teacup. Hearing this, Su Xianing immediately said, Teacher, I'm reporting Bei Yunj and Song Yao. The students in the special class record their usual results. Song Yao and Bei Yunj copied each other's homework and used unfair competition methods. Chapter 591. Hearing this, the lecturer paused in his action of putting down the thermos flask, and could not help but look at her. Song Yao and Bei Yunj. A few seconds later, the lecturer glanced at Song Yao before his eyes landed on Bei Yunj. Is what Su Xianing said true? Teacher, actually. Before Song Yao could explain, she heard the lecturer say, I didn't ask you to speak, Song Yao. But Song Yao was about to insist when she was interrupted by Bei Yunj. Teacher, I won't admit to this. Hearing Bei Yunj being so calm, Su Xianing laughed coldly. Everyone saw with their own eyes that Song Yao used your exercise book to do it. Are you still not admitting it? What do you say? The lecturer looked at Bei Yunj and asked. In this situation, Song Yao was so nervous that her palms were sweating. She was afraid that the teacher would really ask Bei Yunj to leave, because he didn't like Bei Yunj. How did you know the exercise book was mine? Before Su Xianing could refute, she heard Bei Yunj say with a casual smile, Did you write my name? Dang. Su Xianing was about to respond when her body suddenly froze. She didn't seem to have seen the name on the exercise book just now. Bei Yunj had been in class for a month, and she hadn't even written her name on the exercise book. Not only Su Xianing, even the lecturer froze, his expression not too good. Bei Yunj, you've been in class for so long, and you didn't even write your name on the exercise book. Teacher, she forgot. Song Yao immediately explained. The people around her were even more anxious than the original owner. Seeing this, Su Xianing and the people around her started to gloat. But in the next moment, the lecturer's expression was dark. Bei Yunj, Professor Do told me that you're very talented. But do you know how talent is erased? Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved. Lingjio Literature Network. No wonder her results in every assessment period were not ideal. But she would always have one more place in the ranking. If you can't pass this paper in an hour, I don't want to see you in this classroom again. As soon as he finished speaking, when Su Xianing saw the question on the paper, her lips curled into a mocking smile. Hearing this, Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj pitifully, indicating for her to do it well this time. Bei Yunj could not withdraw from the competition in such a dejected manner. Bei Yunj glanced at Song Yao, and then at the paper. She was silent for a while. Teacher, this paper is not good. When Su Xianing heard this, the corners of her mouth curled up into a mocking smile. Professor Do's hand-picked student was only SO. What kind of extraordinary talent was this? Why? The lecturer looked at her and asked. Gur. Song Yao tugged at Bei Yunj's sleeve nervously. More than half of that paper was set by me. Bei Yunj looked up at the lecturer. Lecturer. Song Yao was speechless. After coming back to his senses, the lecturer was a little incoherent. What did you say? Bei Yunj thought for a while and said, "It's not very fair to do this test paper." Everyone. Damn. This damn person was actually Bei Yunj. The teachers who had come to substitute for the past few days had all said that this paper was very good. But in everyone's eyes, it was too tricky. It was even more suffocating than Huang Qishan's physics paper. In the end, this was set by Bei Yunj. Su Xianing and the rest did not look too good either. In the advanced class, only Shi and Cheng Zihuai had scored 70 to 80 points for this paper. Chapter 592. Actually, before Song Yao took a photo of this paper for Bei Yunj had always thought that Professor Do was testing her. But later, she found out that during the professor's gathering, Professor Do had been made drunk by Si Qingyan. When Si Qingyan saw that someone was rushing for the papers of the special class, he felt guilty and used Professor Do's account to send a test mission to Bei Yunj. Then, half an hour later, Si Qingyan received something from Bei Yunj and silently transferred a copy to the dean. Song Yao suddenly remembered that when she sent this paper to Bei Yunj seemed to have been silent for a long time. So this was her paper. At this moment, the lecturer's lips twitched. He did not know what to do with Bei Yunj. He took a deep breath. We'll talk about this in the future. First, teacher, as the top university in the country, are you going to choose to protect a student? Su Xianing's cold voice sounded. The people around could not help but look at this arrogant girl in front of them. It had to be said. Other than Su Xianing, no one had the guts to speak to the lecturer of Yin University like this. This isn't protecting a student. The lecturer frowned unconsciously, but before he could speak, he heard the voice of the person behind him. Xianing, why are you here? Why are you talking to Teacher Gao? Everyone turned around and saw Professor Wei from the mathematics department. In the past 2 years, Professor Wei's reputation had been even greater than Professor Dou's. Su Xianing also called Professor Wei, but most people knew that Professor Wei was Su Xianing's uncle. It's like this. When I came to the ordinary class to visit a friend, I accidentally found someone doing homework for someone else. But I remember that our final assessment usually takes up a part of the results. Isn't that cheating? Number 1 asked. Hearing this, Professor Wei frowned and glanced at Teacher Gao. Is that so? What Su Xianing said isn't that true, Teacher Gao said. It's just that a student rarely comes, so. If it's not that true, then it should be mostly true, Professor Wei said coldly. In that case, the two of them can leave the special class together. Their existence is indeed unfair to others. Professor Wei, but Song Yao is currently the top student in the ordinary class. Teacher Gao said instinctively. Like you said, it's an ordinary class. Professor Wei sneered and looked at his watch. Alright, stop talking nonsense with me. Today, Yin University will have some important guests. I don't want them to know about the existence of these two people when they visit. After that, Professor Wei glanced at Bei Yunj coldly and was about to leave. Seeing this, Su Xianing also laughed. After Professor Wei left, she looked at Bei Yunj and Song Yao. Her gaze was filled with sarcasm and contempt. Song Yao, a person like you will be pulled down no matter who you cling to. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be like you, and still have the face to speak so confidently after killing someone. Song Yao's eyes moved, her eyes filled with forbearance. In the past 2 to 3 years, everyone thought that she was punished because she had harmed Yuling. Everyone tacitly agreed that she had been treated unfairly. Yao Yao, what do you want to eat? Bei Yunj suddenly asked and interrupted Song Yao's attention. I'm fine with anything, Song Yao said. Then let's have a meal first. Chapter 593. Teacher Gao's expression did not look too good either. Bei Yunj, don't go yet. Professor Do might. Teacher Gao. I'm sorry for troubling you during this period of time. Bei Yunji's eyes curved as she pulled Song Yao out of the classroom. Looking at Bei Yunji's figure, Teacher Gao felt an inexplicable strange emotion. To be honest, although he had little contact with Bei Yunji during this period of time, and even felt that this student was unruly and did not do her job properly. However, in terms of details, this student was unruly but well-mannered. Guer, do you really not want to participate at all? If you can get first place in this competition, it will be a valuable stepping stone for you to enter various research institutes in the future. I don't want to, Bei Yunji said slowly. Song Yao was speechless. What was this person thinking all day long? Stay here first. I have a call. Bei Yunji brought Song Yao to the private room and walked out. In the long corridor, the person on the other end of the call said in surprise, Miss, you're finally willing to contact me. I heard that you're the one who's preparing for the Mitchell Mathematics International Competition? Bei Yunji asked directly. Hearing this, the head of Lee University was stunned. He did not understand why he was asking about such a competition. The head of Lee University probed. Yes, do you have any juniors who want to participate? Bei Yunji continued. Yes, can you leave a spot? Of course you can. The head of Lee University agreed readily. Although this competition required professional qualities of the contestants, how could the juniors of the family be bad? One shoe building, okay, thank you, director. Bei Yunji hummed in response. Before she could hang up, the director of the hospital hurriedly said, Wait! Can you reconsider the matter of our celebrity wall? Director, I'm sorry. I don't want my private life to be affected yet. Hearing this, the director's tone was regretful. Is that so? But you're really outstanding. Actually, our Neely University has always had the intention of recruiting you. Neely University is a top school and has never lacked talents. Bei Yunji smirked lazily and easily gave Director Lee a way out. A talented person like you would be fought over in any country. Speaking of which, if it weren't for Jones, would you have developed in country R? Head Elderly said with a regretful tone. After all, the treatment they received in our country's Confucian Arts Circle had always been top-notch. There were also many scholars who had immigrated from country A. I won't. Bei Yunji answered without any hesitation, which stunned Dean Lee. Why? Obviously, country R could provide more resources. Bei Yunji didn't even lift her eyelids. She had been asked the same question since her last life. That's my family's teachings. These words made Dean Lee suddenly curious about country A. After all, their country's ancestors had never received such education. Meanwhile, Professor Wei was showing two people around the campus. Along the way, he attracted the attention of many people. This was Jasmine and Titch, the students of Country R's top rich second-generation heir. Thank you for your hospitality, Professor Wei. Thank you very much for today. Jasmine smiled at Professor Wei. You're welcome. I've heard that you're also in Yunqing? Professor Wei said with a smile, but he was asking for information. Chapter 594. That's indeed the case. Our teacher has always been in Yuncheng and has never left. Jasmine smiled. Then I wonder, will I have the chance to meet him? Professor Wei's mind was on the 8,000 questions. But who would have thought that a new scientific researcher in the computing field would actually solve the 8,000 questions in the mathematics world? If possible, he hoped to have a chance to interact with him and become the third person to solve the 8,000 questions. I'm really sorry. Our teacher doesn't like to meet strangers. Jasmine smiled helplessly. Neely University has always wanted to organize a wall of fame for our teacher, but they haven't been able to contact our teacher. At this point, Jasmine and Titch also felt a sense of pride. Back then, when Marcus asked them to follow the new members of the Our Nation's Computing Institute, they were still a little unconvinced. After all, they had always been the young elites in the industry. But later on, it was their teacher's professionalism that taught them how to behave. But our teacher is in the Computing Institute. If you really want to meet him, you can visit Mr. Zhong Xinglin. Titch said. Really? Thank you. A smile immediately appeared on Professor Wei's face, and he continued chatting with Jasmine and Titch. However, I didn't expect the two of you to come to Yincheng personally. Jasmine's eyes were filled with envy. This is our teacher's hometown. We really want to see the place where our teacher grew up. Yes. I also heard that the teacher-student relationship in Country A is very good. Country A is very particular about respecting teachers. We have always wanted to get closer to our teacher. Tich nodded. Hearing this, Professor Wei also began to realize that these two top rich second-generation heirs did not put on any airs in front of him. It was a sincere respect for him. One had to know that the rich circle of our nation still had some residual feudal thoughts. But in order to get closer to him, these two had personally come to Yincheng to meet him. Thinking of this, Professor Wei could not help but feel envious. Suddenly, Tich received a call. Seeing the caller ID, Tich's tone immediately weakened. Teacher. Yes, have you eaten? The voice on the other end was slow. Yes, I've eaten. That thesis today. Before Tich could finish, he was interrupted. Just give me the thesis this week. How long will you be staying in Yincheng recently? More than half a month. Tich was a little stunned. He did not quite understand why Bei Yunj asked this question. Then are you free? Tiki answered without hesitation. Yes, I do. Between you and Jasmine, who is better at mathematics? Bei Yunj asked. That's about the same. Tich didn't dare to say anything about anyone, especially after Bei Yunj taught him mathematics the last time. I have a friend is participating in the Mitchell Mathematics International Mathematical Olympiad. Hearing Bei Yunj ask Tich, he nodded repeatedly. Sure. At the same time, Tich, there were people around their teacher who were participating in the Mitchell International Mathematics competition. Wasn't he too down to earth? Okay. I'll send someone to look for you later. No, teacher, please take care of yourself. To be. Professor Wei could not help but look at Tich. Is Tich on the phone with someone? After Bei Yunj finished explaining, the two of them hung up the phone. Tich looked at Jasmine again. Chapter 595. Teacher asked us to fetch someone. Hearing this, Jasmine raised an eyebrow. What happened? You'll know later. With that said, Tich turned to look at Professor Wei. Professor Wei, we still have to fetch someone. Why don't you leave first? However, a dark glint flashed in Professor Wei's eyes as he smiled. It's all right. I'm familiar with Yincheng. If that person can't find you, I can bring you there. If this person was a friend of, then he would have a better chance of coming into contact with her. At this moment, Tich and Jasmine looked at each other and did not say anything. 10 minutes later, they suddenly saw a girl about the same age as their teacher. She seemed to be looking for someone. Jasmine's eyebrows moved. He was about to go forward when Professor Wei saw Song Yao, who was wandering around Yun University. Didn't I ask you to go out? Why are you still here? Professor Wei's tone was cold and impatient. Even his anger was rising. These students nowadays, did they all think that they were so capable? Who dared to accept the students he chased away? Professor Wei, I'm here to look for someone. Song Yao glanced at Professor Wei, but her eyes were fixed on the brown-haired Tich and the blonde-haired and blue-eyed Jasmine. Looking for someone at Yun University? Do you think that after attending classes at Yun University, you can? Do you know Yunj? Song Yao asked tentatively. These two people's appearances matched Yunj's description very well. Yes. Tich immediately nodded, his eyes shining. You're Bei Yunj's friend? Beside him, Jasmine could not help but look at Tich in shock. This brother was getting bolder. He even dared to call his teacher's name so directly. Yes, are you one too? Song Yao nodded. Her gentle aura was likable. Yes. Tich remembered what Bei Yunj had told him, and could only nod. Hearing this, Jasmine almost thought that Tich was crazy. He even dared to call himself teacher's friend. However, in the next second, Jasmine suddenly regained his senses. Tich might have said this because of his teacher's instructions over the phone just now. Nice to meet you. I'm Song Yao, Yunj's friend. Song Yao smiled. Professor Wei, who was watching this scene, froze. Why was the person Tich and the rest were waiting for Song Yao? Didn't that call just now come from her? However, both of them had brought up Bei Yunj's name. Professor Wei remembered Bei Yunj. She was a student that Professor Doe had his eyes on, but compared to talented players like Titch and Jasmine, her talent and ability were not worth mentioning. How could he be Titch's friend? Just as Professor Wei was denying it, Titch hurriedly took the exercise book for Song Yao and said with a smile, Yunj said that she wanted me to teach you mathematics. You are going to participate in the Mitchell math competition, right? Although my mathematics isn't as good as Yunj's, I've won first place in the Mitchell competition in the past. I hope you won't despise us. Song Yao was speechless. What was this person talking about? She wasn't as good as Yunj in mathematics, but she had won first place in the Mitchell competition? The Mitchell competition. It's not difficult. I've won first place before. Jasmine, who was beside her, interrupted and comforted her. Don't be nervous. It's just a small competition. Chapter 596. Song Yao could not help asking, "What school are you from?" "I'm a postgraduate student from the computing department of Neely University," Titch said. "Me too. I'm in the same department as him. We're both interns at the Institute of Computing Technology in our nation." Jasmine added, "I'm an intern. Is it the one who solved the 8 questions?" Song Yao felt her legs go weak, and she suspected that she was dreaming. Was the big boss's student taking her under his wing? Hearing their identities, Song Yao felt that it was a waste of their talent to take her under their wing. Seeing this, Jasmine understood. Indeed, the teacher's friend did not know the teacher's identity. "Yes," Jasmine said with a gentle smile. "So you don't have to worry. We'll teach you diligently during this period." Song Yao was speechless. Isn't this too troublesome? She really did not know what Master Pei was doing. At first, she thought that Bei Yunj had found a student from Yin University to teach her. Who would have thought that it would be a postgraduate student from Neely University? Furthermore, this was his personal student. No trouble, no trouble. We're very happy to do it," Titch said hurriedly. What a joke. It was the first time their teacher had instructed them to do something. If they couldn't do it well, wouldn't they seem too useless? Finally, Professor Wei could not help but speak, his expression still not too good. "Isn't the person you want to take over someone you know?" Hearing this, Song Yao looked at Professor Wei in confusion. How could she know a god of this level? "Yes, it's someone I know. I'm not too sure either," Titch said vaguely. "Maybe someone asked our teacher for help." When Professor Wei heard this, his expression turned even uglier. He was looking for an opportunity to contact her through his student. That Bei Yunj actually had the ability to get in touch with this person and get his student to teach Song Yao. But does this student have a spot to participate in the Mitchell competition? Professor Wei said with a fake smile. He knew very well that if Jasmine and Titch took Song Yao, Su Xianing's chances of getting first place would be even lower. Hearing this, Titch turned around in confusion. Isn't Song Yao an individual international contestant? What? Professor Wei's expression changed completely. For a long time, the requirements for individual international contestants were very high. They needed qualified scientific researchers to recommend them. Even he didn't have the qualifications to be a recommender. He had just dismissed Song Yao not long ago. How did she become an individual international player? "Miss Song, do you want to check it out?" At this time, they should have already registered, Titch said. Hearing this, Song Yao was also inexplicably nervous and took out her phone to check. Not long after entering the website address, then her personal information appeared. Name Song Yao, sex, female, player type, individual international player, recommended by. Seeing the last line, Titch and Jasmine's eyes were filled with envy. Even their teacher hadn't let them walk through such a special passage. An individual international player. One could directly advance to the next round of the preliminaries. This meant that as long as Song Yao passed the 4th round, she would at least be in the top 10. One had to know that in the past few years, almost no one had been able to pass the requirements of an individual international player. In this year, Song Yao was probably the only international player. All of a sudden, Professor Wei's expression was ugly, and he regretted it even more. He had actually chased Song Yao and Bei Yunj away. Chapter 597. If he hadn't chased them away, would he have been able to get to know them through Bei Yunj? At this thought, Professor Wei's heart turned cold. He could not help turning to look at Song Yao, his voice stiff and slow. Student Song, is Bei Yunj also an individual international contestant? She's not participating. At first, Song Yao did not understand why Bei Yunj was not interested in this competition. However, at this moment, when Song Yao heard what Tich had said, and the recommender displayed on her phone screen, she seemed to understand why Bei Yunj was not interested in the competition. Song Yao took a deep breath and stared at the recommender displayed on the screen. It was really, her recommender was actually. Suddenly, Song Yao really wanted to send a message to Bei Yunj to ask if she could get her an autograph. This was a new scientific research big boss. At this moment, Professor Wei's expression darkened even more. It was over. He had really offended Bei Yunj. At the Computing Institute, Bei Yunj glanced at the phone beside her, that was flashing with notifications. She did not plan to look at the message. She didn't need to guess to know that this was from Song Yao. Until 6 in the afternoon, when Bei Yunj was about to go back, she called Song Yao and walked out. However, she did not expect to see Fu Yanbai standing at the door of the car the moment she went out. It was obvious that he was waiting for someone. Looking at Fu Yanbai's gaze, Bei Yunj furrowed her eyebrows quietly. She vaguely felt that this person might be her. Yao Yao, I'll hang up first. With that said, Bei Yunj hung up. New World. When Fu Yanbai heard this name, he frowned unconsciously, and a trace of coldness flashed past his eyes. Miss Pei, I have to remind you that that woman is not a good person. She looks gentle, but she has a vicious heart. Bei Yunj did not even look at him and planned to leave. Seeing this, Fu Yanbai immediately chased after her and handed the bouquet to Bei Yunj. He smirked. Don't you like these flowers? I've heard that no woman doesn't like flowers. The woman you like is called Yu Ling, right? Bei Yunj's words made Fu Yanbai pause. Then he calmly admitted, yes. She's a very bright and kind person. Although she's not as good-looking as you and doesn't have your family background, her personality and yours. Young Master Fu, if it were me, the one who fell into the sea back then wouldn't have been me. It would have been you. Bei Yunj's slow words interrupted Fu Yanbai. Next, he laughed. Yes, you're even more daring than Linger. Was it because of Huashidu? He does care a lot about you. But Miss Pei, it's not easy to enter the Hua family. As soon as he finished speaking, before Bei Yunj could say anything, a woman's voice suddenly rang out. Young Master Fu, are you trying to take advantage of Master Du? Hearing this, Bei Yunj turned to look at the woman who was walking over. He was dressed in professional attire and looked very capable. His eyebrows seemed to resemble Tseng Su's. Miss Pei, my name is Tseng Yu. I just came back from K Country 2 days ago. I'll be in charge of your daily life in the future. When Tseng Yu smiled, there were 2 little dimples on her face, which made her look more childish. Master Du is even willing to let Miss Pei use you? Fu Yanbai's words were vague. He was deliberately making Bei Yunj think that there might be something between Tseng Yu and Huashidu. It's my honor to be able to stay by Miss Pei's side. Master Du thinks highly of me. Chapter 598. With that said, Tseng Yu suddenly changed the topic and asked with a smile. I remember that young Master Fu's last relationship was rumored to be the talk of the town. Why am I here today? Master Du even brought you here. Are you that worried? Fu Yanbai asked without a smile in his eyes. In Fu Yanbai's opinion, Tseng Yu was more difficult to deal with than Tseng Su. After all, she was a woman and her words were aggressive. Young Master Fu, you must be joking. Tseng Yu's tone was indifferent and the smile in her eyes faded a little. Although Miss is young, it doesn't mean that she can't differentiate between good and bad. My job is just to solve unnecessary problems for Mississippi. With that said, Tseng Yu looked at Bei Yunj. Miss Pei, can we go back now? Yes. Bei Yunj also glanced at Tseng Yu and followed her back to the car. When Fu Yanbai saw this scene, his face turned gloomy. In the car. Miss Pei, can I take you home? Tseng Yu asked. Okay, thank you. Bei Yunj responded and looked at Tseng Yu. Are you Assistant Tseng's sister? Yes. Sung Yu smiled. I heard Sung Su mention Mississippi Miss is more beautiful than I imagined. However, your position in the Computing Institute is. She remembered that her brother's original words were. Miss Pei was good-looking, but she was unruly and her grades were not good. But thinking about Miss Pei's face and family background, it was already fortunate that she was not spoiled to the point of breaking the law. I'm here to take a look. Bei Yunj smiled. Dream Chinese. When Sung Yu heard this, she felt that something was wrong. She could visit the Computing Institute at will now? She remembered that this Computing Institute could only be entered by swiping a card. Sung Yu couldn't help but sigh. I've only been away from Yincheng for a year. Has there been such a big change? I remember that when I just graduated, I also sent my resume to the Computing Institute, but they didn't even let me in. Bei Yunj. Looking at Sung Yu's capable image, Bei Yunj didn't expect her to be a chatterbox. After Sung Yu told her everything about the company, Bei Yunj suddenly interrupted her. Have you been to Country R? Sung Yu was stunned for a moment, but when she looked at Bei Yunj's eyes through the rearview mirror, she seemed to understand something. She smiled meaningfully and said, Usually, when Master Du goes on a business trip, he only brings my brother along. However, I heard from my brother that the women in Country R are much more straightforward than those in Country A. Bei Yunj glanced at Sung Yu. Not reserved. Yes, my brother has a market in Neely, and was almost kissed by someone, let alone Master Du. Sung Yu's tone was full of disdain for her brother. She chuckled. I don't know what's wrong with Sung Su. He bragged about how he was almost forced to kiss me for 3 years. Bei Yunj. Since when did Country R become so unrestrained? Miss Pei, you can call Master Du more often when you're free. Sung Yu said intentionally or unintentionally, as she secretly looked at Bei Yunj's expression. Bei Yunj responded indifferently, but no one knew what she was thinking. After Bei Yunj got out of the car, Sung Yu sent Sung Su a message. Sung Yu, I'll definitely win your 10,000 yuan. Miss Pei will definitely call Master Du today. Sung Su? Sung Su. Haha, Miss Pei has been quarreling with Master Du recently. What are you thinking about? Call him? Chapter 599. Sung Su. After returning to the bedroom, Bei Yunj took a shower as usual and read some documents. However, an hour later, Bei Yunj unknowingly picked up her phone and checked the records of Huashida's messages to her. Bei Yunj. Why were they all sent in the morning and afternoon? Was he so busy at night? With this thought in mind, Bei Yunj suddenly remembered Sung Yu's words. Even Assistant Sung was so lucky in love. Moreover, this man had always been very attractive. Thinking of this, Bei Yunj's eyes moved. Just as she was about to send a message to Huashidu, she suddenly stopped. A moment later, Bei Yunj made a call. After about a minute or two, the other party picked up the call. Yin, what's wrong? The man's low and magnetic voice sounded even more textured through the current, teasing her eardrums. Brother, are you very busy? The man was silent for a moment. Bei Yunj heard him chuckle again. He said, I'm not too busy. Bei Yunj heard the man's deep and magnetic laughter. For some reason, her throat felt dry, and she licked the corner of her lips. Suddenly, Bei Yunj said without thinking, Brother, can you video call me now? The other party seemed to be silent for a moment. His tone was nonchalant. Now. Can't I do it now? When the man heard this, he suddenly lowered his voice and chuckled. Yin. Then Bei Yunj heard him say slowly, Brother, any time is fine. Bei Yunj. This D***min man was at it again. Give me 2 minutes, then I'll video call you, okay? Bei Yunj suddenly smirked and said with a smile, Older brother can do it now, right? The little girl's meaning was obvious. He had to make a video call to her right now. His Adam's apple bobbed as he chuckled. Yes, Yun is right. Although Huashida did not understand the little girl's thoughts, he could clearly feel that his child was awkward. Not long after, Huashidu turned on his computer and sent Bei Yunj a video call invitation. As expected, Bei Yunj quickly agreed to the invitation. However, after the call was connected, the atmosphere in the air froze for a long time. Bei Yunj saw that the man's short hair was wet, and his upper body was naked. He seemed to have just changed into a pair of pants, and his firm and sexy 8-pack abs were faintly visible. It was simply too terrible. Bae-yunj. So, did Hoshida say that he wanted to wait for 2 minutes because he wanted to go and get dressed? The silence did not last long. She said, "Brother, dry your hair." The man replied, "Yes." The atmosphere was still awkward. The girl's ears gradually turned a faint shade of red. The man's eyes were fixed on her, and he couldn't hide the smile in the depths of his eyes. "Yun, can Big Brother go and put on some clothes?" "All right." Hence, Bae-yunj saw with her own eyes that Hoshida took out a black shirt and slowly changed his clothes not far away. The man's lazy yet clean temperament, as well as his well-built waist, simply made people blush and their hearts beat faster. Bae-yunj. Couldn't he avoid the camera? Hoshida changed his clothes and returned. He glanced at the little girl wearing silver-rimmed glasses and smiled again. "Yun looks good in glasses too." Bae-yunj accepted the compliment with a clear conscience and asked, "When will Big Brother be back?" "In another week." The emotions in Hoshida's eyes flickered, and his magnetic voice was filled with a smile. "Did you miss me?" Chapter 600. Okay. Bae-yunj responded, and could not help but look at the man's impeccable face. She had to admit that every time she saw the man's face, the anger that had just risen in her would disappear completely. Seeing Bae-yunj admit it so straightforwardly, Hoshida's Adam's apple bobbed unconsciously. His gaze darkened, and his laughter was a little hoarse. Sometimes, the recklessness and straightforwardness of a young man were the most moving. Suddenly, Bae-yunj saw the man's thin lips curl up. His magnetic voice sounded light and lazy, not hiding the gentleness that made her blush and her heart race. "Child, I miss you too." At this moment, Bae-yunj's hand that was holding the pen froze. Her heart was beating wildly. There was a knock on the door. "I'll hang up first." After Bae-yunj regained her senses, she immediately wanted to hang up the video call. Even her mind was in a mess. The lethality of this sentence was simply too great. However, suddenly, she saw Hoshida open the door and heard the woman's voice. "Mr. Hua, I don't think there's hot water in my bathroom. Can you help me take a look?" Although it was a foreign language, Bae-yunj understood the woman's intentions very well. However, the man's eyes darkened and he smiled. "No need. I happen to have a favor for you." With that said, Bae-yunj did not quite understand what he meant at first. Hoshida's voice was cold and magnetic. It was obvious that he was not easy to seduce. However, the woman did not want to give up. Her coquettish and teasing voice made one's heart itch. "Then can I take a shower here, Mr. Hua?" At this moment, in a hotel, if there was a problem with the hotel facilities, she would not look for the hotel management, but a stranger for help? In the next moment, the woman was probably afraid that Hoshida would not believe her. So she said pitifully, "I have no choice. As a female celebrity, if I appear in front of a stranger like this and get photographed, Miss, I don't have time to fix the water heater in your bathroom." Instantly, the smile on the blonde woman's face froze. She was even more suspicious. Where did this woman come from? Not long after, she suddenly noticed the video on the computer screen. Hoshida did not speak. He only turned around and walked into the inner room. Seeing this, the blonde woman was overjoyed. But the next moment, she heard the man say lazily, "Baby, someone wants to take a bath here. Do you think it's okay?" Bae-yunj looked at the woman who had walked in without permission. She lazily rested her chin on her hand and did not hide her purpose. She smiled and said, "I'm sorry, sister. I'm very possessive. I don't intend to lend you anything, whether it's things or people." The woman's expression changed. Of course, she understood what Bae-yunj meant. She glanced at Hoshida, still a little indignant. The girl's appearance was exceedingly beautiful, and her brilliance was unparalleled. No. Then, she watched the girl in the video take off her silver-rimmed glasses. Her eyes looked like they were smiling, but there was a natural laziness to them. Bae-yunj also realized that Hoshida was looking at her. She immediately found an excuse and hung up the phone. Miss Pei actually had a video call with Master Du. After they left, But not long after, Sung Soo came to knock on the door and happily invited this female celebrity away. Before this, Sung Soo saw Bae Yunj on the phone with Hwashidu and widened his eyes in disbelief. However, not long after, Hwashidu's words suddenly appeared in Bae Yunj's mind. P.S. 2 chapters will be added tomorrow morning. Babies, remember to vote. The top 15 of the monthly votes list will be added with 4 chapters in the morning. Chapter 601. Baby, someone wants to bathe at my place. Do you think it's okay? Instantly, Bae Yunj looked up at the report she was writing. She did not know when, but half of the report was written with Hwashidu. Had she been bewitched by that D*Imin man? Bae Yunj immediately deleted most of the Hwashidu and continued writing the report at hand. The next day, Bae Yunj received a call. Old Master was suddenly unwell and asked her to watch the music concert with Shang Yen. Old Master Qin was worried about Shang Yen going alone. All right, Old Master. Bae Yunj slowly walked downstairs and said leisurely, "You're so good to him. I almost suspected that he was your biological grandson." "What nonsense are you talking about again?" Old Master Qin scolded jokingly, but it was not difficult to hear his indulgence towards the younger generation. "All right, let's not talk about it anymore. I'll go pick him up now." Bae Yunj looked at her watch, hung up the phone, and got into the car to go to the hospital. She realized that Shang Yen had already changed his clothes. He was wearing a simple navy blue t-shirt and trousers, making him look even more gentle and elegant. If this person could stand up, he would probably be the most popular person in the world. "The nurse came to help me change just now," Shang Yen explained. Bae Yunj nodded and pushed Shang Yen out of the hospital. Along the way, Shang Yen smiled gently. "Did Old Master ask you to accompany me?" "Yes, he's worried about you," Bae Yunj said casually. She did not feel unhappy that she had been sent on a mission. "Did I delay you? Old Master's matters are the most important." Hearing Bae Yunj's words, Shang Yen could not help but smile. Indeed, although this girl did not look easy to get along with, she was a filial girl. Cool record literature along the way. Shang Yen told Bae Yunj a lot about the current music trends. He did not care if Bae Yunj was listening. Until they arrived at the concert venue, Shang Yen took out 2 tickets and was invited in. The tickets this time don't seem to be very good. Shang Yen handed one to Bae Yunj. Bae Yunj took a look and saw that it was a VIP seat. However, for this concert, there were other classes of seats above the ordinary VIP. "Do you want another seat?" Bae Yunj remembered that Du Xiao had said that 90% of large-scale concerts were attended by the International Musicians Association. It was not difficult to get a ticket internally. "Forget it, this is not bad either." Shang Yen did not plan on telling Bae Yunj that it was very difficult to get the tickets this time. The price outside had already risen to more than 100,000 yuan for an ordinary ticket. Bae Yunj nodded and didn't say anything else. "There's still half an hour before the concert. Let's go eat something first," Shang Yen said. There was a self-service art-style afternoon tea outside, and the desserts were exquisite and beautiful. Subsequently, it was only when Bae Yunj was picking out snacks by the side that Shang Yen saw Nancy's message. "Shang Yen, I'm not only doing this for my successor, but also for you. Back then, you were also a prodigy in everyone's eyes. Are you going to give up on yourself just like that?" Shang Yen did not reply and only looked at the ticket in his hand. His lips curled into a faint self-deprecating smile. What was there to be proud of about a prodigy who had fallen into a quagmire? In the past, he would receive tickets to this concert every year, but they were always platinum seats. This year, for some reason, it had become an ordinary VIP ticket. The Shang Yen of the past no longer exists. Shang Yen lowered his eyes and muttered to himself in a hoarse voice. His gentle eyes were filled with suppressed restlessness and decadence. "P.S. It's coming. Be good and stay in the top 15 monthly votes. Don't let old Sue drop out halfway through his update." Chapter 602. All of a sudden, a clear voice sounded. "The current Shang Yen is still Shang Yen." Shang Yen looked up and saw Bae Yunj, who was biting the cake fork, looking at him. She took the fork down and fiddled with the cake in her hand. Shang Yin. It's hard, but get through it. Hearing this, Shang Yin looked at Bei Yunj in front of him. His hand holding the phone inexplicably heated up. Not long after, Bei Yunj and Shang Yin were about to return to the concert. They were almost bumped into by someone who suddenly ran over. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously. There was a faint coldness in her eyes. Before she looked up, she saw the gorgeously dressed woman in front of her turn her head and sneer at the foreign man who was rushing over. Am I causing trouble for you? The woman pointed at Bei Yunj and questioned the man. This sister should be your type, right? You are rich and powerful. Others may be willing to follow you, but I will never. Her tone was filled with loftiness and arrogance. This scene of expressing her arrogance, as if there was no one else around, made Shang Yin and Bei Yunj's eyes cold. Bei Yunj savored the woman's words and licked her red lips. She smiled carelessly and said, Why do I feel unhappy when I hear this? With that said, the arrogant woman froze for a moment. It was probably the first time she had met someone who said that. She turned her head and saw Bei Yunj's face clearly. Her expression changed immediately. She had always been proud of her looks. Back then, many socialites in Yuncheng had lost to her face. Even the eldest daughter of the Song family, who had been praised by everyone, was at most on par with her. But the girl in front of her was the same as her. They were both gorgeous. But compared to this girl, she, who used to brag about her charm, was inexplicably tacky. Even if this girl didn't speak, she had an innate elegance and self-restraint. Ling, the foreign man, immediately stepped forward, grabbed the woman's hand and apologized to Bei Yunj. I'm very sorry. My friend was reckless and made a fool of himself. The foreign man spoke the language of country A. It seemed that the woman beside him did not understand the language of country R. Tell your friend to be more sensible. Bei Yunj glanced at the woman slowly. The corners of her lips curled up as she said with a lazy smile, If you really have such a backbone, you should take off the string of jewelry around your neck, throw it to the ground, and leave immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, the woman's body froze. She felt a burning pain on her face, and anger rose in her chest. This was the first time she had been humiliated in public. At this thought, she bit her lip, and her gaze finally landed on Shang Yin. This man, he was even better looking than Fu Yanbai, but it was a pity that he was a lame man. The regret in the woman's eyes dissipated, and then a great sense of satisfaction rose. She looked at Bei Yunj and smiled. I'm sorry, my friend and I were just throwing a tantrum. I wonder who this is, Mrs. Boyfriend. What a pity. I think this gentleman must have been a proud son of heaven in the past. Hearing this, Shang Yan's eyes did not waver, because he had heard such words many times. But then, just as Shang Yan was about to explain for Bei Yunj, suddenly she chuckled. She said leisurely, Why should a proud son of heaven be afraid of being at the end of the road? In an instant, Shang Yan's long eyelashes fluttered violently as he subconsciously looked up at the girl in front of him. Chapter 603. Bei Yunj smirked and patted the hem of her skirt lazily. Also, this is my friend. With that said, Bei Yunj left with Shang Yan, leaving the young woman standing there with an ugly expression. This girl had a natural aura that she couldn't imitate no matter how hard she tried. The woman bit her lip and turned to look at the foreign man. Seeing that he was also looking at Bei Yunj's back in amazement, a flame of jealousy rose in her heart. That person, do you like her? Yu Ling could not help but ask. Hearing this, the man wanted to nod, but in the end, he could only shake his head. Seeing this, Yu Ling finally felt better in her heart. The man's gaze was still fixed on the place where Bei Yunj had just left. That girl was not someone he could covet at first glance. As Yu Ling walked on the road with this foreign man, she still felt annoyed for no reason. It had to be said that compared to this foreign man, Fu Yanbai was more popular with her. Thinking of this, Yu Ling's desire to return to Yun City grew even stronger. Especially after being stimulated by the strange girl just now. She wanted to return to Yun City and let that girl know what kind of existence she was in Yun City back then. Yu Ling's eyes darkened, and she found her seat according to the admission ticket. But what she did not expect was, looking back, she found that Bae Yunj and that man were only in the ordinary VIP seats. She was a little surprised and felt a sense of superiority in her heart. At first, she thought that the two of them would be in the first 10 rows no matter what. She did not expect them to be sitting in the 15th row. At the end of the VIP seats, Yuling retracted her gaze and sat back in her seat with a smile on her face as she watched the grand music concert. Every day, when they came out, Yuling held the foreign man's hand and smiled. Today's concert was really good. Every year, our nation has an International Musicians Association concert, and the last ones are all members of the International Musicians Association. Only the top upper class of each country can participate in that concert. Hearing the foreign man say this, Yuling's eyes were filled with yearning. She unconsciously pinched the man's sleeve. Then can you participate? Yuling could not help but ask. The foreign man shook his head. I'm not qualified yet. But the person in charge of my group participated last year. Hearing this, Yuling was even more disappointed. If it were Fu Yanbai, he would definitely take her to see it, right? Seeing that Yuling was unhappy, the foreign man comforted her. However, my boss will be staying in Yun City for a long time this year. Maybe I can ask him for one. After all, he had been with his boss for so many years. He still had a chance to get a concert ticket. However, Yuling just smiled and said, forget it, I'm just very interested in music. I don't want you to do something difficult for me. After saying that, Yuling hid the indignation in her eyes. If it was Fu Yanbai, with his status as the young master of the Fu family, why would he need to grovel and beg others for votes? Thinking of this, Yuling took a deep breath. She looked up and happened to see Bae Yunj and Shang Yan. Miss, Yuling shouted and quickly walked in front of Bae Yunj. What's the matter? Bae Yunj glanced at this woman. Her impatience was clearly displayed on her face. The foreign man tugged on Yuling's sleeve when he saw her half-smiling expression. It was obvious that this young lady did not like them. However, Yuling smiled and said, we've met so many times. Don't you think it's fate? Chapter 604. Hearing this, Bae Yunj's eyebrows twitched. She looked at Yuling for a while. This is the first time I've met someone who doesn't know how to appreciate favors like you. Instantly, the atmosphere was silent and awkward. Yuling was speechless. The foreign man was speechless. Shang Yan suppressed his laughter, his gentle eyes especially making people unable to look away. He could tell that Bae Yunj was not mocking Yuling on purpose. She really felt that way. This made Yuling not know how to reply for a moment. Miss, are you very prejudiced against me? Yuling forced out a smile. Not really. I don't like others to be an eyesore in front of me. Bae Yunj glanced at her and asked Shang Yan, are you leaving? Seeing this, Yuling was still blocking Bae Yunj, not wanting her to leave with a smile on her face. Miss, actually, I want to be friends with you. Bae Yunj licked the corners of her lips and laughed, her gaze turning cold. Miss, do you lack friends so much? Seeing that Bae Yunj could barely suppress her coldness, Yuling's suitor hurried forward and said, Miss, don't be angry. I think Yuling might just want to treat you to a meal. With that said, that suitor even turned around and begged Shang Yan for help with his eyes. Hearing this, Yuling seemed to have thought of something as a dark look flashed past her eyes. She started to show weakness. Yes, miss, I don't have any ill intentions. With that said, Yuling bit her lip and looked at Shang Yan. Bae Yunj raised an eyebrow. Shang Yan, we. Then, before Bae Yunj could say anything, Shang Yan said, Yunj, do you have time? If you do, we can go for a meal together. Bae Yunj glanced at Shang Yan. She was not interested in such activities. Besides, she remembered that the old master said that this person did not like places for gatherings. Are you sure? Let's go. I'm hungry too. Shang Yan's eyes were like stars as his thin red lips curled up slightly. She had a gentle temperament, but it always made people feel shocked. Yuling and the others were preparing to attend a party nearby, which wasn't too far away. On the road, Shang Yan unlocked his phone and saw countless messages from Nancy. He didn't scroll up, but he roughly saw a few lines of content. You went to the concert on Shimei Road? My air seems to have gone too. She didn't come to the Computing Institute today. I'm so lonely. Speaking of which, she doesn't talk to me when she's around. Although our goer is only a high school student, she's really quite pretty. I guarantee that she'll be the prettiest one at the concert. Goa? Shang Yan's brows twitched as he looked at Bei Yunj. Did you just call me? Bei Yunj turned around and asked. Shang Yan looked at her without saying anything. Bei Yunj thought that she had heard it wrong, so she didn't pay much attention to it. At this moment, Shang Yan was silent for a moment before sending Nancy a message. S.Y. Bei Yunj. A few seconds later. Nancy. Nancy, how do you know Goer's full name? Seeing this message, Shang Yan's heart skipped a beat as his eyes darkened. How could the air that Nancy had her eyes on be Bei Yunj? At this thought, Shang Yan suddenly thought of what old Master Qin had said to himself in the hospital. My Goer doesn't know anything. She's only good-looking and easily provokes bad guys. What will happen if I pass away? Shang Yan was speechless. So his granddaughter who didn't know anything was? P.S. I can't tell your capabilities usually. So many people are watching the update. Old Sue, go prepare to update. There are still 6 updates left. I'll leave the monthly votes ranking to you guys. If you don't fall off the rankings, keep updating. Chapter 605. It took Shang Yan a long time to mentally prepare himself. Previously, he was already surprised enough when he heard Nance say that the high school student he had his eyes on was. Even though he had graduated from Neely University and had seen countless geniuses, her talent was the most unimaginable to him. Now, what shocked him even more was that it was actually Bei Yunj, an elder young miss who looked like she had a bad temper. Even her grandfather had always thought that his granddaughter didn't know anything. Shang Yan looked at the figure in front of him. Before long, he replied to Nance. S.Y. I agree to the matter you asked me to consider. S.Y. I'll return to our nation after some time. At this moment, Nance, who was at the Computing Institute, suddenly saw Shang Yan's message and was jolted awake. What was going on? Why did such a difficult person like Shang Yan suddenly agree? Just as Nance was feeling confused, Bei Yunj had already entered the banquet venue. She realized it later. Bei Yunj also sensed that something was wrong. She felt that the name Yu Ling sounded a little familiar. Soon, Bei Yunj suddenly remembered. Yu Ling, Fu Yanbai's sweetheart? Was she not dead? Or did she recognize the wrong person? Yunj, what are you thinking about? Shang Yan had arrived beside her at some point in time. Nothing. I just think that woman's name sounds a little familiar. Bei Yunj said slowly. Hearing this, Shang Yan smirked. Maybe they really know each other. I heard from George that Miss Yu used to be from Yuncheng. 2 to 3 years ago, he saved her from the shore. Hearing Shang Yan say this, Bei Yunj was almost certain that this Yu Ling was the Yu Ling she knew. Looking at Bei Yunj's expression, Shang Yan roughly knew that Bei Yunj was really related to this Yu Ling. Did she have any unhappiness with you? Shang Yan asked. No. Bei Yunj's lips curled up. She did have some unhappiness with my Tian Tian. The banquet was held by the riverbank, which was paved with solid wood. The lights and moonlight reflected on the sparkling ripples. Behind the green trees were white villas. Wherever his gaze landed, it was like a painting. You are Mr. Ji, aren't you? Yu Ling's voice sounded. At this moment, Ji Yiqing turned around and saw a woman in a wine-red dress with scales and spaghetti straps. She was extremely charming. If it was in the past, Ji Yiqing might have been attracted as well. Unfortunately, he happened to see Bei Yunj in a gown at Uther residence that time. The girl had black hair and snow-white skin. Her excessively beautiful eyes carried a faint smile without any warmth. That was the first time Ji Yiqing had a strong sense of why the demon concubine could turn all living beings upside down. Miss Yu, you've come. Ji Yiqing nodded and said with a smile. Last month, I was very grateful that Miss Yu was willing to accept the temporary blood donation. Otherwise, my sister might not have been able to keep her life. Yu Ling suppressed the surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect the younger brother of the noble lady she saved to be so decent. Then she smiled and said, It's just a blood donation. After all, it's 2 lives. I heard that Miss Yu also faints at blood. You're really kind. Ji Yiqing curled his lips and said, By the way, is that gentleman Miss Yu's boyfriend? No. Yuling immediately denied it. Seeing Ji Yiqing's stunned expression, Yuling hurriedly lowered her head and gently tucked her long hair behind her ear. I don't have a boyfriend. Chapter 606. Ji Yiqing looked at Yuling in front of him and felt that it was a little strange, but he did not know what was strange. He could only nod. Then, he remembered his sister's intentions and handed a gift box to Yuling. Yuling was flattered. Mr. Ji, what are you doing? My sister asked me to give this to you. She's in confinement now and can't express her gratitude to you in person. So she asked me to bring it to you. Who knew? Hearing this, Yuling's expression suddenly did not look too good. Mr. Ji, with your sister's situation, if it was someone else, I would have helped them too. I really don't need your thank you gift. Ji Yiqing raised his eyebrows and laughed carelessly. Miss Yu, did you misunderstand something? I appreciate Miss Ji's kindness. Mr. Ji inviting me to the banquet today is already considered a thank you gift for me. Yuling insisted. Hearing this, it was Ji Yiqing's first time encountering such a situation. If Miss Ji really wants to express her gratitude, why don't you treat me to a meal when she's free? Yuling said with a smile, a dark look flashing past her eyes. Back then, she wanted to see the people of the high society through Song Yao. Unfortunately, Song Yao had never been friendly to her. Alright, then I'll deal with this thank you gift separately. Ji Yiqing nodded and did not forget to say with a smile. If Miss Yu needs any help in the future, you can look for me too. Hearing this, Yuling's heart beat faster and her cheeks flushed slightly. What's Mr. Ji's occupation? Don't misunderstand. I just feel that Mr. Ji's aura is very different. Ji Yiqing said, soldiers. My family has been in the army for generations, but because my mother's family is in business and she's the only daughter, she also has a business. That's very impressive. Yuling could not help praising. I'm very envious of Mr. Ji for having such a good living environment. As for me, I don't even know what to do if I want to return to Yuncheng. You want to return to Yuncheng? Ji Yiqing looked at her. Bean Bookstore. Yuling bit her lip, as if she found it difficult to say what she was going to say next. I used to have a very crazy boyfriend. I'm afraid that he'll find me. How about this? If Miss Yu really wants to go back, I can help you. Just as Ji Yiqing was halfway through speaking, he glanced around from the corner of his eye and happened to see a familiar person. When Yuling saw that Ji Yiqing had suddenly stopped speaking halfway, she subconsciously looked back. But to her surprise, the man was looking at Bei Yunj in the middle of their conversation. Yuling's expression changed. She forced a smile and deliberately asked, Does Mr. Ji know that young lady? I met that lady on the road today. The man in the wheelchair next to her might be her boyfriend? He's not. After Ji Yiqing finished speaking, he walked towards Bei Yunj without waiting for Yuling to continue speaking. This almost caused Yuling's face to darken. Ling, does Mr. Ji know that young lady? I don't know. Yuling's face was cold as she followed him and ignored George. At this time, Bei Yunj heard a familiar voice. Why is Miss Pei here? Bei Yunj turned around and saw Ji Yiqing. Let's eat, she said. Ji Yiqing. This person didn't seem to know that this was a banquet hosted by the Ji family. What was wrong with Master Du? He didn't even give the young lady food? Does your brother know that you're eating at my house? Ji Yiqing asked with a smile. Chapter 607. Bei Yunj paused. Your house? Ji Yiqing nodded, then looked down at the gift box and casually stuffed it to Bei Yunj. Take it. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously. What is it? It should be jewelry. I don't need it either. Ji Yiqing had never asked his sister, but according to his sister's generosity, it was undoubtedly a gem. Bei Yunj placed the gift box on the table. I don't need it either. She found it troublesome to keep the 3 safes that Qin Luyan and the other 2 had sent her last time. Miss Pei is too disrespectful. Ji Yiqing chuckled unconsciously. It's just a small thing. Take it as a thank you for helping to contact them. Or can you bring it to her? Bei Yunj turned around. She's not interested either. Just nice. When Shang Yan, who was beside them, heard this, his lips curved unconsciously as he looked at Bei Yunj with interest. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. Up to you. She would get Huashidu to send this back later. Are you? You know without asking? With that said, Ji Yiqing stuffed the gift box back to Bei Yunj confidently. Yu Ling said with a smile. Especially when she saw the gift box in Bei Yunj's hand, her face almost distorted. Bei Yunj did not reply and only ate some food. Suddenly, Miss, so you know Mr. Ji? She never thought that Ji Yiqing would turn around and give Bei Yunj the thank you gift that she had decisively rejected. However, Bei Yunj was not embarrassed at all. I know her, Ji Yiqing answered casually. However, Yu Ling could not help but glance at Bei Yunj, her tone inexplicably strange. Miss Pei is really popular. I'm afraid people give you gifts everywhere you go, right? Shang Yan said. I heard that your brothers gave you a safe of jewelry each. Is that true? I think so. One of them is filled with antiques. Instead, she placed the gift box on the table and ate her snacks. All of a sudden, Qin Luyan and the rest. I heard that the Qin family has been in the limelight recently. I don't know why, but EG Corporation is in a hurry to cooperate. The Qin family also has a very mysterious and powerful hacker. Ji Yiqing said with a smile. Miss Pei's three brothers are all amazing. Bei Yunj's casual words made Yu Ling's expression freeze. Did this girl's brother give her an entire safe when he bought jewelry? The Qin Corporation that cooperated with EG? Previously, she had heard George mention that this was a new force that was at the peak of its power. At this moment, Yu Ling, who was by the side, practically froze all over. Qin Lang? Yu Ling asked with a stiff voice. How could he be this girl's brother? I know that it's unlikely for your brother to have a girlfriend. What about Qin Yu and Qin? And Bei is Kate. Ji Yiqing was still excited when he talked about Bei Yunj's family. Were these two people the ones she knew? Miss, you should have left country for some time. On the other hand, Yu Ling's mentality almost twisted as an indescribable jealousy spread. Back then, she thought that Song Yao was already a rich young lady that everyone envied. If she could win against Song Yao, she already had the ability to make people envious. But what was wrong with this girl? P.S. There are still 3 chapters left. Be obedient and remember to vote. Chapter 608. Why did someone have everything the moment they were born? This feeling of indignation was even more indignant than when she found out that Song Yao was the eldest young miss of the Song Corporation. Bei Yunj was not interested in the conversation around her. She turned around. When are you going back? I'll send you back first. Shang Yan shook his head and smiled. I've already called someone to pick me up. Hearing this, Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. She had always thought that Shang Yan did not have any acquaintances in Yuncheng. Okay. Bei Yunj nodded. The few of them stood together. Even though they did not talk much, in Yu Ling's eyes, they were all from the same world. Only she came from a humble background. Yu Ling endured the distortion on her face, but she did not notice that there was a pair of gentle eyes beside her that were unhurriedly sweeping over her. There was no warmth in his eyes as he took in her changing emotions. Until suddenly, a servant ran over panting. Young master, the pianist over there couldn't be changed. I bumped into young Master Fu on the way and young Master Fu sent someone to us. Sent someone? Ji Yiqing remembered that he did not have much of a relationship with Fu Yanbai. Why was he so polite? Yes. I originally went to the Golden Tripod restaurant to look for the boss and ask if I could hire a pianist. But his pianist happened to apply for leave. When young Master Fu came out, he pushed a lady. At this point, the servant was a little speechless. Fu Yanbai had really pushed that gentle-looking girl to him in front of everyone. Okay, her salary will be 10 times. Ji Yiqing nodded carelessly. Okay, young master. Hearing this, the servant heaved a sigh of relief. However, when everyone saw the young lady who came in with the servant, Yu Ling said instinctively, "It's her." After a while, Yu Ling finally realized that the Song family was gone. It was understandable that Song Yao would appear here. Dong dong. At this thought, Yuling could not help but sigh at how times had changed. However, more than that, she felt an inexplicable sense of superiority and joy. Look, the high and mighty eldest young miss of the Song family was now playing the piano for her, a guest. How interesting. Yuling could not suppress the smile on her lips. Mr. G is such a good person. 10 times the salary. As soon as he finished speaking, before Ji Yiqing could speak, a figure at the side suddenly walked over. Yunj. Ji Yiqing reacted, not knowing what was going on. Yuling also frowned and watched as Bei Yunj walked towards Song Yao. Could it be that Song Yao knew Bei Yunj? Impossible. Just as Yuling's expression froze, Song Yao was already stunned. Yunj. After regaining her senses, Song Yao regained her senses. With Bei Yunj's identity, it did not seem strange for her to appear here. Seeing Bei Yunj's unhappy expression, Song Yao could not help but smile. Her voice was still as pleasant as a mountain stream. I play the piano quite well. Do you want to hear it? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows, but in the end, she didn't mention Fu Yanbai. When did you learn the piano? 7 years old. My grandfather taught me. Song Yao's eyes curved. But there are so many people. I might be a little nervous. After saying this, Song Yao sat in front of the piano and fiddled with the keys casually. Bei Yunj looked at her for a while and only chuckled. She sat beside Song Yao, her fingertips landing on the black and white piano keys as she said lazily, "Don't be afraid. Play well." Chapter 609. Song Yao blinked and only smiled. Her gentle and refined appearance was an extremely high self-restraint hidden in her bones. Thank you, Yunj. Song Yao smiled. It was not only because Bei Yunj was willing to accompany her, but also because Bei Yunj was protecting her pride and dignity. You're welcome, our eldest Miss Song. Bei Yunj's tone was casual. She sat casually beside Song Yao, making Song Yao feel at ease. With that said, Bei Yunj listened to Song Yao and quickly distinguished which song it was. After a while, the two pairs of hands on the piano played together perfectly. Soon, someone exclaimed, "Wait a minute, this is Du Zhao's star, River?" Du Zhao's piano piece was from the era of the gods in our nation's music industry. He became famous overnight and became an unsurpassable dark horse. Nowadays, not many people had the confidence to play such a difficult piece in front of so many people. After all, it was a professional level 9 song. Ah, listen again. Is there Yun's Spring Night Banquet? I'm going to explode. Spring Night Banquet? Some people who did not know did not understand what these people were excited about. You must have heard of the simplified version of Spring Night Banquet. It's Yu Manren's new song. However, Spring Night Banquet is considered Yun's assignment to the International Musicians Association. It's simply a perfect assignment for the International Musicians Association. The girl said excitedly. I also heard that it seems like it's because old Mr. Du Xiao has always admired the national style, and expressed that he hoped that Yun would create a national style composition. That's why there was this Spring Night Banquet. The original song is too magnificent and shocking. It's like a reappearance of the ancient dynasty. Other than her professionalism, even the simplified version of Yu Manren's lyrics was written by Yun herself. My professional professor said that this is the benchmark of the national style. The amateurs who did not know much shut up. However, it sounded very godlike. This young lady is so amazing. She actually changed Spring Night Banquet to this, with River as the main theme. The style is harmonious and complements each other. At this thought, the girl suddenly felt very sad. No way. A big boss of this level is playing the piano at a banquet? What about me? After graduation, won't the only way out is to play the eru on the road? Stop dreaming. It's not even your turn to play the eru, her best friend whispered next to her. The girl, not long after. Suddenly someone reacted. Isn't that the eldest daughter of the Qin family? The eldest daughter of the Qin family plays the piano so well. Someone was surprised. The one beside him looks familiar too. Don't even think about it. To be able to reach this standard, she must be a socialite. That's the demeanor of a great family that's ingrained in their bones. Not far away, Yuling, who had heard the discussions around her, almost turned green and red. Her fingers clenched the corner of her skirt. At first she thought that she could mock Song Yao, but now, she was in the same situation. But what happened in the end? She was just playing the piano on stage, and people were praising her as a socialite. I know the song Spring Night Banquet too. George couldn't help but sigh. In country your folk songs are actually very difficult to sell. But this Yun became the newcomer king of this year's International Musicians Association with Spring Night Banquet. I heard that there was a conflict within the International Musicians Association previously because Du Xiao loved Yun's talent. But the other leaders disagreed and felt that Yun was too inexperienced. In the end, they didn't expect that Spring Night Banquet was as shocking as star back then. River. Chapter 610. It was his first time seeing someone who was not in our nation cause an uproar in the International Musicians Association. It was unbelievable. Besides, apart from his famous song, there was another reason why Du Xiao could successfully become the president back then. He was an immigrant, and his nationality was our nation. This was an unspoken rule. If one wanted to obtain international glory, emigration was the best way to reduce controversy. But it was obvious that Yun had no intention of emigrating. Ever since she became a member of the International Musicians Association, she had not even taken a step into our nation. Even if she had never seen this person before, she could tell this person's character. It was not easy to predict. Yuling bit her lip. Aren't you deifying this person too much? He's not deified. Even history will be tolerant of such a person. George shook his head. If a person could reach an extreme in a certain aspect, it would be a contribution to human civilization that could not be ignored. Hearing George say this, Yuling did not continue. On the other side, Bei Yunj and Song Yao had also ended their duet. The applause lasted for a long time. Bei Yunj and Song Yao chatted as they walked in front of them. In the next moment, Song Yao and Yuling looked at each other. Yuling's heart palpitated inexplicably, and she panicked before she looked away. However, Song Yao's pupils constricted violently, and she clenched her fists, her gaze gradually turning cold. Her lips curved. Yuling? Yuling did not speak, feeling guilty. So you're not dead. Song Yao's voice was calm, but it was a little scary. Bei Yunj, who was beside her, tugged her hand gently. After all, back then, the Song family was ruined because of this woman. How could Song Yao not hate her? Song Yao, before, thank you for helping me. Yuling was afraid that Song Yao would tell her what happened back then. Was it to help? Back then, Miss Yu didn't seem to have given me the right to refuse. Song Yao clenched her fists, remembering how Fu Yanbai had humiliated her back then. Song Yao, but weren't we friends back then? Yuling bit her lip, afraid that Song Yao would expose her in front of Ji Yiqing. I thought you wouldn't blame me. However, when Ji Yiqing heard this, he unconsciously frowned, and his gaze towards Yuling also became colder. How would I dare to be friends with Miss Yu? Song Yao smiled. Her exquisite eyes were less delicate and more tenacious. I will make them pay for this. Song Yao curved her lips, her eyes filled with coldness. After all, you and Fu Yanbai don't deserve to live so well. She had once liked Fu Yanbai, but that was only in the past. Ever since her father's death, the world had changed in her eyes. In the past 2 to 3 years, she had only made one friend, Bei Yunj. At this very moment, hearing this, a trace of mockery flashed across Yuling's eyes. Song Yao was still so naive. Could it be that she still thought she could make Fu Yanbai pay the price? Suddenly, a servant walked over. Young Master Fu outside is asking for someone. At this moment, Ji Yiqing had already roughly guessed what kind of complicated relationship this was. If he gave her to Fu Yanbai, wouldn't Bei Yunj tear him apart? What a joke! Just as expected. In the next moment, he heard Bei Yunj scoff, his tone slightly cold. The Fu Corporation is really capable. Hearing this, the servant also felt that something was wrong. Miss. She smirked. If he wants my person, let him come personally. Chapter 6:11. With that said, Bei Yunj pulled her to the table next door to get desserts. At this moment, just as Yuling was feeling mocked that Bei Yunj dared to treat Fu Yanbai like this, the Ji family's servant spoke. Young master, can I get young master Fu to ask for her? Yunchi Yujing Garden number 7. Do you want Fu Yanbai to look for her? Hearing this, Ji Yiqing turned around and smiled at the servant. The servant was speechless. Number 7. If he remembered correctly, it was the place where that person from the Hua family lived. What a joke. Hu and Yuncheng dared to go to the Hua family to ask for her. You don't have to say anything. Just tell young Master Fu that Miss Pei took her away. Ji Yiqing could tell that Bei Yunj knew Fu Yanbai too. Yes. After the servant left, Yuling could not help but ask, is the Qin family very powerful? Even if it was a new force, would they really dare to go against the Fu Corporation because of Song Yao? The Qin family is like the sun in the sky. The newly appointed President Qin is also very business-minded. It's only a matter of time before they jump into the international market. Ji Yiqing glanced at her and smiled slowly. As for Miss Pei, although her temper isn't too good, I believe the Fu family won't want to go against her friends. Just one was enough to shut the Fu family up. Besides, that person from the Hua family was simply protective. At this moment, Yuling felt even worse. Jealousy seemed to be rolling in her chest, and she could not suppress it. She forced a smile and said, then will the Qin family dote on Miss Pei so much? Did they provoke such a strong enemy for the elder young miss? Suddenly, the servant beside her interrupted, her tone filled with envy. The Qin family? The Qin family is famous for doting on their only sister. Back then, our young master was also invited. That birthday banquet at Yuther residence cost more than 100 million yuan. Ji Yiqing did not deny it. And Yuling's expression instantly turned ugly. A birthday banquet cost more than 100 million yuan. Yuther residence is a private residence, right? George, who was standing beside Yuling, finally heard a familiar name. Ji Yiqing replied, Is the owner of Yuther Mansion a member of Miss Pei's family? George's tone was full of envy. The Yuther Mansion was designed by a famous architect in our country. He spent half of his life to design it. Even the murals in the inner corridor were personally carved by him for 5 years before they were completed. I'm not too sure about that. If you want to take a look, you can ask Miss Pei. Ji Yiqing smiled. That residence belongs to Miss Pei? George asked subconsciously. That's not it. Ji Yiqing chuckled. If Miss Pei likes the moon in the sky, the owner of this mansion will think of a way to pluck it for her. What's more, it's just a mansion. Hearing this, George fell silent. Why was Miss Pei's life better than their country's princess? At this time, Bei Yunj happened to be back. She looked at Ji Yiqing. Did you call me just now? No, but Mr. George wants to visit the Yuther residence. Can you ask your wife? What? Bei Yunj frowned. Just as George panicked and was about to deny it, Ji Yiqing spoke again. It's the place where you celebrated your birthday. Did that person give you the key? The key? No. Without waiting for Ji Yiqing to speak again, Bei Yunj said, My brother gave it to me. He said it was a 19th birthday present. Chapter 6:12. Ji Yiqing was speechless. Why didn't Master Du give him a platinum royal hotel on his 19th birthday? He didn't even manage to get her. And he had already given Yuther residence away? What's wrong? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. Seeing that Ji Yiqing's expression was not too good, she probed. Is the feng shui of that place bad? Even if the feng shui was bad, she could not return what her brother had given her. Ji Yiqing was speechless. George was speechless. No one had considered this question since the beginning of the last century. Yunj, do you know Yuther residence? Ji Yiqing felt like he could not find his voice. Bei Yunj did not know what Ji Yiqing wanted to ask her. She paused and said, It's a rather old but pretty house. Ji Yiqing was speechless. Bei Yunj turned around and glanced at George. You want to walk around, right? Then I'll go and ask where the keys are. She heard from Huashidu that this house needed regular maintenance, so Bei Yunj did not care much about it. No need, no need. George hurriedly rejected. What if he entered and lost something valuable inside, and couldn't afford to pay for it? Bae-yunj was speechless. Why are all these people acting so strangely? Yunj, don't lose the keys in the future. Song Yao, who was beside her, suddenly tugged at Bae-yunj's sleeve carefully. Her grandmother used to be an architect, and she knew about this youthful residence. However, she never thought that one day, the owner of this residence would be standing beside her. Bae-yunj felt that something was wrong with this random instruction. However, in the next second, she turned around and asked Shang Yan, "Should I send you back first?" "No need. I'll chat with Mr. G for a while. The person who came to fetch me is almost here." Bae-yunj was surprised to see that Shang Yan and Ji Yiqing were getting along well. She nodded. "Brother Ji, take care of Shang Yan," Ji Yiqing said with a smile. "Okay, be careful when you go back with Miss Song." After Bae-yunj and Song Yao left, Shang Yan smiled. "Mr. G's wine is very good. It's good that Mr. Shang likes it." Ji Yiqing smiled calmly. He had deliberately mentioned Huashidu just now. Clearly, he was afraid that Shang Yan would have feelings for Bae-yunj and wanted Shang Yan to retreat. Shang Yan's fair and slender hands held the wine glass as he looked at the red wine inside. "I do like it very much, but I also know that my body can't bear this love." With that said, Shang Yan placed the wine glass on the table. At this moment, only Ji Yiqing knew that Shang Yan was not talking about wine. Ji Yiqing's eyes darkened. He only laughed and didn't say anything. And not long after, suddenly, a young man that Ji Yiqing found familiar walked over. He called out respectfully, but it was not difficult to hear the excitement and nervousness in his voice. "President Shang, Nieyu." A hint of surprise flashed across Ji Yiqing's eyes. Wasn't this the assistant to the top decision-maker of Higgins Group a few years ago? Nieyu was stunned for a moment before he recognized Ji Yiqing. He smiled and said, "So it's Mr. Ji. You know each other?" Ji Yiqing asked. "This is my boss." Nieyu nodded. When Ji Yiqing heard this, he was stunned. So, this man in the wheelchair was one of the top decision-makers of Higgins Group back then. Chapter 613. Ji Yiqing suddenly felt that Shang Yan's conditions were not bad. If nothing happened to his leg. "Mr. Ji, my people are here too. Let's meet again in the future." Shang Yan smiled. "Mr. Shang, have you not been to country R in the past few years?" Ji Yiqing asked. After all, he had not heard much about this person in the industry in the past few years. "Yes, but I'll be going back in a while." Shang Yan's words also shocked Nieyu, who was pushing the wheelchair behind him. Was President Shang finally willing to come back? In the past, no matter what he said, Shang Yan was unwilling to hear any more news from Country R. He thought that it would be difficult for him to see Shang Yan pull himself together in this lifetime. At this moment, Yu Ling, who was observing from the side, also sensed that this man in the wheelchair probably had an extraordinary identity. She clenched her fists instinctively, her nails almost digging into her flesh. She bit her lower lip tightly and her eyes were dark. God was really unfair. Why was it that a person like Bae-yunj's life was so smooth? She could get what she wanted with just a curl of her finger? What about her? Her mother had passed away, and her father was only a high school teacher. She had been taught to tolerate since she was young. Why should she give in to these people? Why couldn't she have a good life? At this thought, Yu Ling's jealousy almost swallowed her rationality, and her expression was a little ferocious. No. Back then, if she could snatch everything from Song Yao, she could also snatch everything from Bae-yunj. "On the way. Are you unhappy?" Potato asked. Bae-yunj could not help but tug at Song Yao's braid, her eyes filled with amusement. Song Yao glanced at her in amusement. After holding it in for a moment, she suddenly took off her yellow sun hat and put it on Bae-yunj's head. No. Bae-yunj was speechless. Bae-yunj took off her hat slowly and stopped tormenting her. As for Song Yao, she used to act like a lady, but ever since she was tortured by Bae-yunj, she had become more cheerful than before. "Yunj, thank you for today." Song Yao had two dimples when she smiled, looking sweet and quiet. Bae-yunj raised her eyebrows. "You're welcome, Sister Yao." Song Yao was speechless. This guy was really childish and liked to take advantage of others. Bei Yunj knew that Song Yao and Jianxi had similar hobbies. One of them had the nickname Jiancisi, while the other had taken her phone after adding her on WeChat and added herself as Song Yao Yao. What a strange hobby of repeating words. To be honest, Yunj, I really want to make Fu Yan buy, and Yuling pay the price through myself. But I know that I'm nothing now. Song Yao's eyes darkened. Previously, she had always felt that if Yuling was still alive, she would make Yuling and Fu Yanbai regret it. But today, when Yuling really appeared in front of her, she realized that she was no longer the eldest young Miss Song of the past. The Song enterprise was gone. She had nothing. Are there any other doubts about what happened back then? Bei Yunj asked. My father's company didn't do anything illegal or illegal. Fu Yanbai only put pressure on those who worked with my father and made the Song family isolated and helpless. Song Yao shook her head. At this point, she could not help feeling a lump in her throat. Back then, she had heard her father and Fu Yanbai's conversation. Fu Yanbai said that as long as the Song family drew a clear line between them, nothing would happen to the Song family. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.